Are back and really excited to start this stream for the Wednesday nights ground school and sim sessions for the private pilot. Wednesdays and Thursdays are geared for the private pilot, and really, honest to God, the ground school and sim really the Wednesdays and Thursdays are geared toward all pilots. Um, I like to think that my Tuesdays are as well, but really Tuesdays are IFR Tuesdays are very specialized, and it's a kind of a unique case where we are operating under IFR instrument flight rules, and we are in IMC. We're looking at different things that are IFR related, extremely important, and also very cool if you are a private pilot and you're thinking about doing an instrument rating, or you're letting your recency that you are an instrument rated pilot and you let your recency of experience lapse, and you're thinking about doing an IPC or something. Um, Very cool content there, but ground school and sim Wednesdays and flying skills Thursdays are really geared for everybody, just in terms of what's what out there. And we had some discussion in the last session, in the last stream just now, on the importance of like staying current, and utilizing tools to stay current and or proficient rather. And that's what I hope to bring in these ground school and sim hybrid sessions on Twitch. So with that, I just wanted to say thank you for joining me tonight. My name is Philip, and I'm a certified flight instructor down here in Los Angeles. And my goal is to bring kind of some unique content to Twitch by doing sort of like a ground school and sim hybrid. And that's what we'll be doing tonight. So um, tonight's stream session, tonight's ground school is about airspace. We're going to be looking at different types of airspace. Why do we need it? What are some of the rules? And then we'll be looking at all the different types of airspace in the United States, at least, in terms of each type of airspace, in terms of how it's represented on the aeronautical navigation charts, what the VFR weather requirements are, and visibility and cloud separation requirements are for that type of airspace. What are the equipment and pilot qualifications for that type of airspace, and just try and get acquainted with like what the national airspace, what's called the NAS, the National Airspace System. Once we get a handle on the different types of airspace, and we'll even pull out SkyVector out and look at a few different types of airspace, then we will hop in the sim and fly around Los Angeles to some places that I take my my flight training students around. As you navigate the complex airspace around here in Los Angeles, this idea of pilotage and knowing where you are based on visual references and visual, like, well recognizable landmarks outside, and you relate those landmarks and that what you see outside to a chart to determine where you are. That pilotage is crucial. That skill of that type of navigation is called pilotage, and pilotage, that method of navigation, is super crucial around Los Angeles, because we need to know where the class Bravo airspace where the really busy airspace is. We need to know where the more small, like, local airport airspace is. You got some in-between sized airspace that's like pretty big but not as big as they can be. And all of this type of airspace is layered in really complex ways around here in Los Angeles. And so we just need to train our eyes to look at the chart. Think we're looking at a 2D page, and we need to be thinking in 3 dimensions when we're looking at these layers of airspace. And depending on how high we are, whether we're in certain airspace or not, we need to know like what airspace are we in, what's above us, what's below us, what's in front of us. We need to exercise those pilotage skills. We're going to do that in Microsoft Flight Sim. I'm going to pull up 4Flight so we can keep track of where we actually are, in real time. But then I'm going to be pausing it every now and then and pointing out like these landmarks and where we are. with respect to certain types of airspace. For example, when let's actually pull it up. Let's see here. Hold on 1 second. Somebody just got in touch with me at this flight school that I fly out of. They want to know if there's a student here that can work with me in the sim. Cool. All right. Yeah. So let's take out this VFR chart, this TAC chart out of Los Angeles. And, you know, we're going to be flying around LA, basically, in Microsoft Flight Sim and looking at the different visual references, determining what type of airspace is around us. For example, you know, we'll fly around the Long Beach and the Palos Verdes practice areas right here over the water and look at things like the Queen Mary. Just to the south of this dotted blue circle here, Long Beach's airspace, the edge of the airspace is approximated by locating this Queen Mary. It's a big boat. Or like the edge of this Torrance Delta right here, marked by the Vincent Thomas Bridge. You know, that if we are east of that bridge, then we are outside of that airspace. If we are west of it, then we are inside of it, depending on the altitude. So, you know, we'll go to the north. Out of we'll go out of Fullerton, and we'll follow the 91 freeway to this interchange right here, the 91605, which marks the edge of the Long Beach's Delta as well. We'll take that 91605 all the way up, or maybe we'll go out of Long Beach and we'll follow the 710 all the way up. You got little bends right here in the freeway. We'll follow the 710, and we know that as we are following that freeway, as we come up to beam the Compton Airport, you know, as that Compton Airport gets off to our left wing, then we know that we have 2,500 foot Bravo, this little area right here. This is a part of LAX airspace that we need to make sure that if we're above 2,500 feet, that we have a Bravo clearance, or if we're below 2,500 feet, then we can be below it, you know. But that happens as we follow that freeway with Compton off to our left. What we need to do is make sure that before we have Compton off to our left wing, that we are below 2,500 feet. That's the thing, because by the time we're following this freeway and we have Compton off to our left, the 2,500 foot LAX airspace is right smack in front of us. So we want to be well below it. You know, we're going to be following that. And after we cross the 105, we know we have this 2,000 foot LAX airspace type thing. We follow that freeway and we got this weird bend right here. Weird characteristic bend. Very, very recognizable from the air. We know that just on the other side of that weird bend, there's a border right here where the 2,000 foot Class Bravo airspace stops. And that's 2,500 foot Bravo actually. So we can use that to our advantage by staying low and staying at 1,500 feet or 1,700 feet below that 2,000 foot Bravo. We can stay at that altitude just until we pass that weird bend, and we know that we're safe to climb to 2,000 feet. You know, and we're going to El Monte, and then we make a right-hand turn. We see Garvey Reservoir, and we know that we need to establish two-way radio communication with this Class Delta airspace before Garvey, because Garvey, once we're at Garvey, we're right outside the airspace for El Monte. So it's really, really interesting to me personally that you can have all of this complex airspace around us at various levels, and it's very pervasive. Look at LAX looks like a mess, man. Or I'm sorry, LA Basin looks like a mess. That's all airspace, you know, layers of airspace. Sorry, this guy's getting in touch with me. Not sure. No sweat. I have an IFR sim, I have a sim IFR student question mark, or just inquiring. And a regular pilot. Just trying to get some clarification on who's this guy that I'm working with tomorrow in the simulator. I think it's really interesting that we can have all this complex airspace around us, and yet, you know, utilizing things on the ground, we're able to know where that is, you know? This is all, otherwise, like, how do you know where anything is? Well, there are, if you look closely enough at where the airspace is, if you can isolate and see with your eyes, like, you know, if you're able to see that airspace to begin with, which is very I think he's already IFR rated, just wanted to come catch up in the sim. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Oh, that's even better. Then if you could look beyond the airspace, and if you can actually see some of the terrain features on here, you can correspond the two and see, you know, what's around you. So basically, I've got nothing really majorly planned. We're just going to hop in the plane and fly around LA, go to a few different airports, and have me show you guys, like, where this airspace actually is and how we use pilotage. So let's hop in, and not in the sim, but let's hop in the PowerPoint and talk about airspace. And before we do that, I'm going to refill. Those of you who want to, I encourage you to join me. Oh, excuse me. So Crazy Condor says, "Excuse me, Captain. The magenta." And by the way, you know, I mean, it's all good. We're all you know, equals here. You don't have to like call me that. It's all good. The magenta arrows are transition routes. Ah, yeah. So that's the bidirectional magenta arrows. Those are transition routes. And really what they are VFR, they are types. Let me go back and actually show you here. They are transitions, and they follow, he's talking about these arrows right here. There are these arrows over the stadium. There are these arrows over the, I want to say that's the, what is that? Is that the Hollywood? No. This is the Coliseum. This is over the Coliseum. This is over the Hollywood Park. You have this route. These bidirectional magenta arrows are ways to traverse the surface Bravo. Now here's the thing. We're gonna do flying skills tomorrow. On Friday. And just fly in the sim all around the LA Basin tour. We'll do all kinds of different things like the LAX special flight rules. We'll do the Hollywood sign. We'll do downtown LA. In Microsoft Flight Sim, it's gonna look dope. It's gonna look so cool. And so maybe we'll explore those routes then. But the long story short is, in the LAX terminal area chart, the TAC chart, you got these different routes across the surface Bravo that do require a Bravo clearance, by the way. That, you know, if you want to follow these rules, if you want to go across the surface Bravo and you want to use these routes, then yeah, you need a Bravo clearance. This is in contrast to the LAX special flight rules, which does not, you are going through surface Bravo without a Bravo clearance, and that is fine. Under certain rules, in this designated area only, on 128.55 with the transponder code of 1201, tracking to or from Santa Monica on the 132 radial, assuming you're making these position reports and you're compliant with the published altitudes, you don't need a Bravo clearance. These do need a Bravo clearance. It tells you right there, remain outside class Bravo until receiving a clearance from LAX Tower. Same thing here with the mini route, with the coastal route, the Hollywood Park, and the Coliseum. So really all you would do is just read this. If you know, first of all, you would pick a route. If you weren't going to do the special flight rules, you would pick a route based on what your cruising altitude is. You know, if you're going far and your cruise altitude is high, you know, you might want to elect for the Coliseum route or the Hollywood Park route. And there's no wrong answer. It just kind of depends on where you're coming from. Either way, you're going direct to Van Nuys VOR, it looks like. Right? This one, it starts at the Queen Mary. You're tracking inbound or outbound. You know, in this case, you're tracking to Van Nuys VOR over Hollywood Park. Or in this case, for the Coliseum, you're going from Seal Beach specifically to Van Nuys over the Coliseum, over the stadium. The coastal route is another one. This would be at a lower altitude, 5.5 to 6.5, depending on your VFR, you know, cruise altitudes, which of course depend on your magnetic course. But yeah, you would just, you know, you would follow the magenta arrows in compliance with that. All right. So it's very cool. It's very, very cool. Looks like the coastal route has you going from the Vincent Thomas Bridge to the LAX VOR, and then from LAX on a 323 outbound. That's pretty cool. Just knowing what frequencies to be in touch with. So yeah, great question. Okay, so I'll be right back, and then we're going to talk about airspace. All right, guys, let's do it. Pulling that beer out of the fridge, I saw a steak that I have marinating and some teriyaki. buddy, I'm so excited for that. It's been about 15 hours, so I'm pumped. Okay, let's talk about airspace. So what are some of the sources used? So this is a lecture that I actually prepared for a guy who was a retired United captain. That's why that slide is there. But I made this whole presentation for him. This is what I do like as a side gig. He uses Ralph Butcher, which is a pretty cool flight training manual. But here's the thing: is like it doesn't talk. This is more so for his class, like an actual established class and a syllabus that actually uses Ralph Butcher. If you buy this book, it will say nothing in there about airspace. This, on the other hand, is where you're going to find all of that information about airspace. The other ones just reference it, here and there. But yeah, all the airspace stuff you could find in the Pilot Handbook of Aeronautical Knowledge or the PHAC. And the FAR AIM, in terms of the regulations that pertain to certain types of airspace, will be in the FARs. And the Aeronautical Information Manual will have, all kinds of additional information for your reading about airspace. Okay, so what are we going to do? We're going to talk about the general dimensions of airspace and what types of airspace are out there and how are they, just what are the lateral and vertical limits of them. Not the rules or anything like that, but just like how are they shaped. We'll kind of differentiate controlled and uncontrolled airspace and what do we mean by not necessarily towered or non-towered, because you could have non-towered, of course towered airports are controlled airports 99.9% of the time. There is a towered airport. Actually, all towered airports are going to be controlled airports, but not there are Class Echo airports out there that are controlled, I believe, which is like really weird. But what I did want to make the distinction was like, not even though basically all towered airports are controlled, just because they're not towered, if there's a non-towered airport out there, doesn't necessarily mean that it's not controlled either. That you do have non-towered airports that are controlled all the way down to the surface. That is a possibility. But we will kind of look at this idea of controlled and uncontrolled airspace. And then we'll just start breaking them down. Class Alpha, which will be up really up high. How high, we'll define that in the general dimensions of airspace. Class Bravo, which is like traditionally super busy airspace. Also pretty busy airspace, but less so is Class Charlie. This is obviously an old picture from John Wayne Airport. This airport is down here in Southern California, and in the picture, you see runway 19er left and 19er right. These are 2 zeros now. This is an airport that, due to changes in magnetic variation, had to have the runways repainted. This is just an old picture. Class Delta, this is Hawthorne Airport, where actually I got my private pilot. This Hawthorne Airport is, this actually looks like a Google satellite image. Hawthorne Airport is these Class Delta airspace airports are going to be smaller community, just general aviation type airports. Now here's the thing is there are some Class Deltas out there that are real ass kickers, that you got some real busy Class Delta airspaces. Matter of fact, the busiest Class Delta airport, community type airspace airport in the world is down, from my understanding, in the world is down here in Southern California in Van Nuys. That's a Class Delta airspace airport, even though it's like insanely busy. So Long Beach is another example of an airport that is very contentious in terms of being a Class Delta airspace airport. It's arguably got the traffic volume for Class Charlie, and the city, and there's been some litigation fighting over reclassifying that airspace due to that airspace, or due to the the volume of traffic of IFR traffic going in and out of there very heavily like commercial, but it's general enough to where it's remained Delta, at least as far as this recording. Class Echo airspace. So we'll look at kind of where Class Echo is. What do we mean by Class Echo, and how is it represented on the chart? We're looking right here at a couple different types of Class Echo in these two pictures right here. In the low, I'm gonna get my cat toy out. Over here we've got Class Echo as an airspace that is surrounding Class Delta. But over here we've got Class Echo that both surrounds the airport as well as goes down to the surface. So Class Echo is represented in 5 different ways. Actually, there are 5 different cases where you would have Class Echo, and we're going to look at all 5 cases just to make sure that we got that down. This over here on the right at Blythe Airport is an example of a non-towered airport that is controlled down to the surface. That just because there's no tower there doesn't mean that it's not controlled. It's a good example. So Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo are all considered controlled airspace. Class Golf is the only type of airspace in the United States that is not controlled. This is uncontrolled airspace. And we see this here at Tompkins. I could have picked a... Considering that 97% of the airports across the country are this type of airspace, I could have picked one that with an easier name. But yet I set myself up for failure by picking an airport named Tompkinsville, Monroe. Wow. Oh, sorry about that. And so what we're looking at here with Tompkinsville, Monroe, is an airport that is at the surface non-controlled. It is Class Golf at the surface. And how do you know? This faded magenta ring right here, by the way, it's the same faded magenta ring that's right here. What that faded magenta ring tells us is that inside of that faded magenta, the controlled airspace, Class Echo, starts at 700 feet above the ground. And that outside of that faded magenta, the Class Echo starts at 1,200 feet above the ground. So if this airport is inside of this faded magenta, and we know that inside the faded magenta, Class Echo begins at 700 feet, controlled airspace starts at 700 feet, then it is uncontrolled below 700 feet. This airport right here is Class Golf from the surface up to 700 feet above the ground. That's different from this airport right here at Blythe, whereas this dotted magenta is surface Echo, make no mistake about it. Now outside of that dotted magenta right here, like over here or right just outside of the faded right just outside of the dotted magenta, make no mistake about it, like here's Byron. Look at Byron Airport, just outside of the dotted magenta but inside of the faded magenta. That airport outside of Blythe at Byron, that's Golf. That's Golf at the surface up to 700 feet. Right? All right. So we'll come back to that. We've also got different types of airspace outside of the Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Echo, and Golf. We've got special use type airspaces that, like we see here, we've got restricted, normally restricted, and alert and MOAs. This is like for military use. Different types of special use airspace will require prior authorization before entering. Some don't, and that type of thing. And then we'll be looking at other types like TFRs that are temporary flight restrictions. This is an example of the temporary flight restriction over the greater Washington, D.C. area. Yeah, we'll come back to that. Oh yeah, and actually very topical, what we were talking about with the special flight rules area is just different types of ways of traversing certain types of airspace, in this case, the Class Bravo airspace. The Special Flight Rules area serves as one of, as we saw, several different types of ways of traversing the Class Bravo the Class Bravo, whereas something similar to this, the VFR corridor, which this is not, a VFR corridor is a hole in the Class Bravo that is actually Class Echo, and we'll look at some examples of that. But what I want to do is stick to these main types of airspace right here, and see how far we get without going too deep and off the rails. Okay, so let's talk about these different types of airspace very simply from a point of view of general dimensions of airspace. When we're talking about general dimensions of airspace, we're talking about lateral and vertical limits. How big are they? Are the generic, all types of airspace, they're the shapes and the heights, they're tailor-made really for the unique needs of a particular airport. But when we study the general dimensions of them, it's kind of like the generic, sizes and stuff. So it's, just be sure to keep that in mind. Now, these restrictions, let's see here. Restrictions are required due to nature of operations within certain airspace areas. So definitely the complexity and the density of the aircraft that are going into and out and going out of that airport will necessitate the shape of that airspace. And why do we need airspace? We need airspace to, number one, have a uniform, simple system of designation across the country where these airports can be all on the same page, or that the pilots can be on the same page about where they are, what the rules are, and if you had different types of airspace in different states, like, you'd have different, nobody would agree and all these things, you'd have to learn airspace for different states and stuff. It's a national airspace system. So, excuse me. So, by having that uniformity, we not only are conform to the same rules across the country, but we resemble the greater international community out there that has slightly different types of airspace, but it's more or less the same. It's similar enough where differences between countries and airspace can just be learned, and international travel can be pretty much unhindered. Okay, so talking about the dimensions. In Class Alpha, this Class Alpha is going to be the band of airspace that begins at 18,000 feet MSL and continues all the way up to 60,000 feet. It's a band of airspace that if you're on a jet airliner somewhere, you're probably going to be in Class Alpha for most of the flight. Not only does it kind of hover around us all at 18,000 feet up to 60, but extends also off the coast by 12 miles. All right. Class Bravo, on the other hand, so there is no airport associated with Class Alpha. It's just really important to understand that. Okay, cool. Yeah, there is no airport associated with Class Alpha. Class Bravo, on the other hand, these are going to be airports. These are going to be exceptionally busy airports. There's a handful of Class Bravos in the country, and they're all the airports that you would think are Class Bravo. When you think about busyness and volume of commercial passenger paying IFR traffic, it's the airports you would assume are Bravo. Miami, New York, or I should say LaGuardia, JFK, Seattle, Denver, Atlanta. Down here we've got Los Angeles, Miramar, and San Diego International. And these are all humongous, busy airspace airports. Now, how are they depicted? How are the lateral limits depicted on the charts? Lateral meaning, you know, across the ground, like, you know, out in front of us. Not, this is in contrast with vertically. Lateral limits are depicted as thick, heavy blue lines, like this here. This is Las Vegas. Here's an example of the vertical limits and how the vertical limits are depicted. We got the surface to 10,000. This is in hundreds of feet, right? So here's an example of surface to 10,000 or 5,000 to 10,000 right there. Okay. We've also got this within 30 miles of every class Bravo. There is what's called the 30 nautical mile Mode C veil that says anywhere, any airport or any type of operation, unless you have some exception or something, you need to be your transponder needs to be altitude encoding for you to be operating in the vicinity of that, in the 30 nautical mile vicinity of that class Bravo airport. That your transponder, which is, for those of you that don't know, your transponder is a little box inside your airplane that helps ATC know normally you're going to have that on, and there's a 1200 that's normally in that box. That 4-digit code of 1200 tells ATC that you're VFR traffic. When you're IFR, they're going to give you a discrete transponder code to put in there. But a Mode C transponder, instead of just telling ATC where you are and that there's some target out there, a Mode C transponder is also going to be reporting your altitude. And then you've got Mode S, you've got Adsb, like, you know, special transponders with Adsb that is integrated into that transponder that's going to be telling them your ID, that's going to be your airspeed, and all kinds of interesting information. So that's where that, you know, Adsb comes in, which we'll talk about here in a second. But Mode C is the main thing. Chart symbolically wise, you're going to see that on a chart, Mode C, within 30 miles. You need a altitude encoding transponder that's working. So not all airports require Mode C transponders, right? Actually, Class Bravo is the only one that does. Actually, no, that's not true. Class Bravo and Class Charlie do. But in terms of there being like a veil, my point with this Mode C thing is the Class Bravo is the only one with a Mode C veil, with the 30 nautical mile Mode C out there, that whether you're above, below, it doesn't matter. Within 30 miles of this Class Bravo, you need your transponder needs to be reporting your altitude. What that means to you is if you're operating at an airport that normally does not require Mode C, such as Class Charlie, below the Class Charlie, I should say, which would be Class Echo or Class Delta. If you are below that Charlie, if you're in Class Delta, Class Echo, Class Golf, these are airspaces that do not require the Mode C function of a transponder. But if you're in a Class Bravo, or I'm sorry, if you're in a Class Delta airspace airport, or if you're in a Class, or if you're in Class Echo, or even in Class Golf, within the Mode C veil, Mode C transponder is required, where normally that would not be required. So it's just something to think about if you're operating at an airport within 30 nautical miles of a Class Bravo airspace. All right, so here's an example of Class Bravo airspace. We got Los Angeles, big cat toy. Broad, heavy blue lines. These are all different sectors of Class Bravo, right? Here's a 2,000 to 10,000, or 5,000 to 10,000 out here. Here's another example. What is this? Atlanta, I believe. Yeah, here's Atlanta. Kind of a different shape, by the way. Here's Los Angeles, all weird shaped because of the departures and arrivals. This is like box shaped, super weird. Here's another example of Vegas, we said. All right. Then we have Class Charlie. Normally, Class Charlie is depicted as, well, in all cases, it's depicted as a solid magenta line, or, you know, heavy magenta line. That's how the lateral limits are depicted, and then the vertical limits are depicted pretty similarly as to class Bravo, that we have hundreds of feet right here. So this would be surface to 4,000. But then you've got, so that surface to 4,000 is this inner ring right here, this inner circle. It's kind of like it's cylindrical. So from the surface to 4,000, class Charlie airspace. This outer ring right here is this what's called the shelf area, the shelf area of the class Charlie. Generically speaking, the vertical limits of the outer air, the shelf area of a class Charlie airspace airport is from 1,200 feet above the ground to 4,000 feet above the ground. Generically speaking, that's what it is. I say that because it is possible for the unique needs of that class Charlie that it's not exactly shaped like this. A great example is John Wayne down here, KSNA. You have this shelf that's 1,200 to 4,000. That's actually a knowledge test question. The other dimensions here that are of notable dimensions here laterally, the inner area right here, the radius from the inner area to the edge of the inner, where this cat toy is right here, this radius is 5 miles. The radius of or I should say the distance from the inner ring to the outer ring is another 5 miles. So what you could say is that the radius from the center of the airport to the edge of the outer area, or the shelf area, is 10 miles. Okay? All right. Here's an example of a pretty weird shaped class Charlie down here in Southern California. There's Burbank. There's John Wynn right there. There's something like really weird. You'll notice that it's there's that 5 mile radius inner area, but as far as the shelves go, you have some weird ones. You got 1,500 to 54, not 1,200 to 4,000. You got 2,000 to 4,400. So yeah, you got some variations out there. And then you have class Delta. Class Delta is the more like kind of chill, usually like community-based airports. Radius is 4 miles from the center of the airport to the edge of the dotted line, being the delta. 4 miles, and it's depicted as this broken blue line. This snippet right here is taken from the Aeronautical Chart User's Guide. That's available in many pilot shops. You can pick it up. You can purchase it for paperback. It's excuse me. It's totally an invaluable tool, especially if you're going to a check ride. You should really pick up that Aeronautical Chart User's Guide. It's got all the answers in there in terms of all the different types of chart symbols and how things are depicted. But here's a good example of a couple different types of class Delta that are out there. Here's one with this keyhole shaped class Delta. Here's a circular class Delta with a class Echo extension off of it. But in any case, the dotted blue is Delta. Usually the vertical limits of the class Delta are up to 2,500 feet above the field elevation, above the ground. So here you have Oakland. It looks like Oakland International, PTK. It's about 1,000 feet above sea level. It's 1,000-foot field elevation. So this 3,500 feet MSL is 2,500 feet above the ground. 2,500 feet above the ground. All right. Usually shown within the broken blue square. Yeah, so this is the way that the altitudes are depicted. We need to be able to recognize not only what are the lateral limits of the airspace, but how are they represented? What are the vertical limits? How are the vertical limits represented? And this is we talked about that with class Charlie. you know, with these here, vertical limits here, same thing with Bravo. A little bit different representation in Class Delta with the little broken blue box right there. In contrast to the 5-mile radius of the inner area of Class Charlie, this surface area, this delta, is from the center to the edge is 4 miles. Here's an example of a Class Delta that is underneath a Class Charlie's shelf. This is Van Nuys. Van Nuys is this crescent shaped right here. You got this curved in, and then it wraps around like that, this dotted blue right here. The vertical limits, on the other hand, go up to but not including 3,000 feet. That's what that the notation of that little minus right there is indicating, up to but not including 3,000. This number in here, 3,000 feet. Why would the first of all, where does the Class Delta begin for Van Nuys? Class Delta for Van Nuys begins at the surface. All deltas begin at the surface. How high up does it go? Up to but not including 3,000. Why? Because we have a Class Charlie shelf here, the Burbank shelf, that begins at 3,000, right? 3,000 to 4,800 MSL. So, yeah, it's important to understand that yeah, you're going to have some deltas that are nearby certain Charlie airports that are going to be, you know, up to but not including. Another example of a Class Delta airspace here, up to 2,600 feet in Long Beach, up to 3,200 feet in San Bernardino, Class Delta. Two very heavily commercial airports, by the way, that are Class Delta. All right, Class Echo. How are the general dimensions of Class Echo depicted? Okay, so why do we have Class Echo? Class Echo allows, is created, surface Echo, really Echo airspace in general, provides separation services between, for IFR traffic within that airspace. So what that means is, so one of the primary responsibility, the primary duty of ATC is to keep aircraft separated, and they can only provide that and IFR, when you're IFR, you are afforded a certain degree of separation between traffic under your instrument flight rules. You can only be IFR in controlled airspace, and if you're not in controlled airspace, you are not afforded the same protection. You in order to be IFR, in order to be operating officially under instrument flight rules, you need to be on an IFR flight plan, and you need to have received an IFR clearance prior to entering controlled airspace. So that way, when you're in controlled airspace, you've got your spot in line, you have the aircraft separation, everything's good. So if ATC is able to maintain that separation, what they're able to do is stay with you and provide that separation all the way into the airport, instead of at airports where that service, that Class Echo is not there, and it's Class Golf at the surface. What they're going to do is you're going to cancel IFR in the air, or when you take it upon yourself to go down to the ground, you'll cancel on the ground, right? But in this case, you're on with the approach controller all the way in. It's very, very nice, and you're afforded that separation. Okay, so what are the 5 different ways that Class Echo is depicted? Number 1, Class Echo is depicted, as we've said, as a broken magenta line, typically around an airport. and denoting that this is controlled air. Remember, Class Echo, all of these types of airspace are controlled. So controlled airspace down to the surface. What's called the vignette, the faded magenta denotes controlled airspace. If you're inside of the faded magenta line, controlled airspace begins at 700 feet above the ground. If you're outside of the faded magenta, controlled airspace begins at 1,200 feet. And both of these cases, the only way that this is true is if we are on the inside of the faded blue. What the hell are you talking about, right? What I'm saying is in most parts of the country, it's not even charted on I mean, in some places it is charted, but across many VFR charts, this blue faded line is not charted anywhere because it's just assumed that you are within it. There are sections of the country where this faded blue line is cut out and where these rules do not apply. But by and large, what happens is inside of this faded blue, this is the rule. 700 feet inside the faded magenta and 1,200 feet outside of the faded magenta. That rule of 700 inside and 1,200 outside is a rule that exists only inside faded blue. So that's very important. All right. Another depiction of Class Echo, what these numbers show are where Class Echo begins. This zipper line right here, it's Class Golf up to these altitudes. 1,200 feet, or heights, really they're heights. If it's AGL, it's a height. If it's an MSL, it's an altitude. But it'll tell you here where the controlled airspace begins at this altitude. So, this zipper line right here, this weird zipper, is also a representation of Class Echo. And then finally, Class Echo also begins, generally speaking, at 1,200 feet above the ground, anywhere where you see an airway. So when you're on a federal airway above 1,200 feet AGL, that's going to be Class Golf as well. That you're not going to have an airway that is not in controlled airspace. That's a knowledge test question for sure. So if not depicted anywhere on aeronautical charts, Class Echo airspace is assumed to begin at 14,500 feet, where MSL, or 1,500 feet AGL, whichever is higher. When we're talking about a place on Earth that is 1,500 feet AGL, and 1,400, it's possible that there are places on Earth, in other words, at 13,000 feet MSL, 13,000 feet above sea level, but 1,000 feet above the ground. Absolutely. In the really tall mountains, yeah, you are definitely that high above sea level, and you are 1,000 feet above the ground, So that's how that's possible. That it is possible to be in Class Golf at 14,000 feet, 13,000 feet, and 1,000 feet above the ground, 1,500 feet above. So what ends up happening is there is no more golf. Class Golf, no matter what, does not exceed 14,500 feet. And that's because of Mount Whitney. Mount Whitney is that tall. So what happens is at the very tippy top of Mount Whitney at 14,500, you've got to be 1,500 feet above that mountain tip. You are still in Class Golf because 1,500 feet AGL at that point is more than 14,000 feet MSL. Okay, whichever is higher. 1,500 feet AGL at the mountain tip of Mount Whitney, you are in Class Golf. And then above that, you're in Class Echo no matter what. No matter what. But basically, don't try not to overthink it. Golf goes up to 14,005, and anything above that is Class Echo. And unless it's otherwise depicted. Like here's an example in this shot right here. We've got all different types of Class Golf going on. We've got in this dotted magenta, in this broken magenta right here, all of this area for Camarillo is Class Echo at the surface, all the way up to 18,000 feet. Why? Because at 18,000 feet, Class Alpha begins. Well, why? How do we know that there's not any other types of airspace above it? How do we know that there's nothing between the surface and 18,000 feet if it's all Echo? We just don't see anything. We don't see any Class Charlie. We don't see any solid magenta. We don't see any solid blue. We do see dotted blue, but that's out here. So the fact is that we don't see anything above us. That's all Class Echo all the way up to Alpha. We see Class Echo all the way out here. All of this area in here, like at Jenna, right? You see Jenna, this intersection right here. All of this area is inside the faded magenta. This is all faded magenta. Oops. So inside the faded magenta, we've got Class Echo beginning at 700 feet AGL, but then you got Santa Paula. Santa Paula Airport is outside of the faded magenta. Class Echo starts at 1,200 feet AGL. You got the airways right here that start at 1,200 feet. The Class Echo, well, in this case, it depends on where you are, because you are very much inside of the faded magenta. This Class Echo begins at 700 feet. Make no mistake about it. On this part of the airway, you're in Class Echo at the surface. So, just look around you and see what are the different types of Echo that are around. And as we said in this previous example, when overlying airspace is not depicted, Class Echo extends all the way up to Class Alpha. That was the story right here. We said, how do you know that this is from the surface to 18,000? There's no overlying airspace. Class Echo airspace that ends at 14,005 is at mountainous areas? Yes. Exactly. And by the way, that's Class Golf that ends at 14,005. Unless otherwise specified, Class E begins at 14,005, actually. So, this is a nice depiction right here of the different types of... no, it's a great question, Condor. So here's a really nice depiction. First of all, very simply put, we've got Class Alpha right there. Class Alpha. We've got the dotted magenta airport right there, where this Class Echo is this blue, sky sort of color. We can see here that broken magenta. All this airspace right here is all the way down to the surface. Class Echo. Now, here's an example of an airport in the middle right here that would be in the inside of the faded magenta. Inside of the faded magenta, Class Echo starts at 700 feet. Outside of the faded magenta, like Santa Paula, boom, you have that right there. 1,200 feet AGL everywhere. Class Echo begins, and it's golf from the surface to 1,200 feet above the ground. And that 1,200-foot golf is going to follow the contours, the terrain. As the terrain rises, you're higher and higher and higher above sea level. But the fact is that in all cases, you're either above or below 1,200 feet above the ground. And if you're below 1,200 feet above the ground, unless otherwise specified, you're in Class Golf. So that golf is going to follow the the contouring mountains. And you got some zipper lines right here. You see the zipper line right there? That's going to randomly tell you where the echo starts at what altitude. And then finally, above that and below, or I should say, you've got 10,000 feet right here, and above 10,000 feet right there, 14,005 or 1,500 feet above the ground, whatever is greatest. In this case, it looks like if that's 10,000 feet MSL, then 14,005 is where it ends. Okay. And then it's all echo. Above that line right there, that line is 14,500. So above that line, it's all echo up until class alpha. That surface right here, by the way, this broken magenta, we said was from the surface all the way up to 18. That's what we're looking at right here. From the surface all the way up to 18. There's no overlying airspace. Okay, what do we mean by controlled and uncontrolled airspace? Controlled airspace is an area where within which ATC service is provided to IFR and VFR flights in accordance with the airspace classification. Pretty much what it is ATC is able to manage and keep everybody separated, IFR and VFR. These are the different types of controlled airspace, and class golf is non-controlled. So some distinctions between uncontrolled airspace and various types of controlled airspace. What are some of the differences? Just big picture, not anything specific. Some airspaces, some airports, namely Bravo, require a specific type of clearance. They require the Bravo clearance. So that's pretty interesting. Class Alpha requires an IFR clearance. Everybody's IFR when you're in Class Alpha, and that requires a clearance. So that's the idea. Class Delta, even Class Charlie, clearance is not required. Each of these types of airspace has certain types of pilot qualifications that we're going to look at. Can you be a student? Do you need to be a private pilot? What is it? Each of these types of airspace, controlled versus non-controlled, will have certain types of VFR weather requirements that we need to be familiar with. Just some nuances, by the way, on the idea of VFR cloud clearances. Just some nuances. In terms of class golf, first of all, what are we looking at right here? This picture is what's called the VFR Weather Minimums triangle. And in each of these triangles, there's a type of airspace represented, and these horizontal lines are representative of altitudes. Okay, so we've got this line right here represents the surface, and this line represents 10,000 feet and above, right, all the way up to 18,000 feet, because at 18,000 feet we're in Class Alpha, and Class Alpha you have to be IFR. What this tells us is if we're in Class Golf, which is represented as this triangle right here, or the base, really this triangle right here too, but you got the base here. You may operate clear of clouds in Class Golf at night, less than 1,200 feet AGL, when the visibility is less than 3 miles but more than 1 mile, as long as you're in the traffic pattern or within a half a mile. What does this mean? If you are day or night, if you are in Class Golf and you are within and you are less than 1,200 feet above the ground, and you're within the basically, if you're really close to the airport, if you're in the pattern, you can somehow be VFR legal if the visibility is less than 3 miles. That is absolutely bonkers. And actually, the thing is if you're okay, so really what this is at night, less than 1,200 feet above the ground, the visibility can be less than 3 miles. Normally, golf at night, this arrow is pointing to these weather minimums right here. 3 represents 3 miles visibility. just like 1 represents 1 mile visibility, 5 represents 5 miles visibility, and there's a cloud right here. See that? There's a cloud right there. These numbers above, below, and horizontally represent cloud distances from in feet that you need to be from those clouds. So what they're saying is in class golf at night, normally it's 3 miles visibility required, 1,000 feet above clouds, 2,000 feet horizontally from clouds, and 500 feet below clouds to remain VFR legal in class golf at night, which is still bonkers because that's, you know, that's really 3 miles visibility is really uncomfortable. It's what it was out here. It was 2 miles, 3, 4 miles. Dude, it's really uncomfortable. But what they're saying is at night, less than 1,200 feet AGL, you're good for visibility is between 3 and 1 mile visibility. Another nuance is this concept of special VFR. So when operating under special VFR, you may not operate under VFR within the lateral boundaries of controlled airspace when the ceiling is less than 1,000 feet. So you are allowed to be special VFR. You know, let me move my thing here. You are allowed to be special VFR if you can remain clear of clouds and the visibility is less than 3 but greater than 1 mile. But what they're saying is if those ceilings are less than 1,000 feet, it's IFR. You may not operate under VFR within the lateral boundaries of... let's see here. You may not operate under VFR within lateral boundaries of controlled airspace designated for when the ceiling is less than 1,000 feet. You know what? Let me double check that, because I want to say that's at night. Hold on. I'm just going to check the regulations right here. Under special VFR, I'm going to go to the fsims.faa.gov. I'm going to go to part 91 under chapter 1. Part 91 right there. And special VFR. Special VFR, where are you? There you are. Okay. It's either going to be here or in class golf, or I'm sorry, in the VFR weather minimums. Yeah, it's probably in the VFR weather minimums. Okay, 155. Class Echo, class golf. Okay. Oh, that's pretty nice. They had a floating bar right there for us. That's pretty cool. Class golf. What do we got? Airspace. Class golf, 1,200 feet or less above the surface, regardless of MSL altitude. Night. Let's see here. 3 miles visibility, except as provided in 91-155B. Class golf, what do we got? Normally it's 3152, right? But then let's see here. Okay, class golf, notwithstanding the provisions in A, the following operations may be conducted in golf below 1,200 feet AGL. In an airplane, if the visibility is less, so this is, yeah, in class golf below 12. If the visibility is less than 3 but not less than 1, during night, you are operating in patch. So it is actually, I was right. So this is actually at night, needs to be modified. Doesn't even. You may not operate. You may operate. Yeah, hold on. Let me just make sure this language is correct here. Less than 1,200 AGL, less than 3 miles, but more than 1 mile, as long as you're in the traffic pattern of the runway. That's true. Yeah, at night, less than 1,200. Visibility is less than 3. Yeah, so that's correct right there. That's what that says. Under special VFR, you may not operate. Oh, I'm freaking silly goose, dude. Yeah, of course. So this is correct. And then except when operating under special VFR. Yeah, dude, you can't operate VFR if the weather's less than visual conditions. Okay, Jesus Christ. Okay, awesome. Sorry. Well, you guys know that I'm going to catch it, dude. If I'm, I just want to make sure that it's all good. We're talking about regs. Can't fuck around. Okay, I'll drink to that for sure. By the way, dude, who's sipping on it with me, man? Who's out there indulging? All right. Special VFR. When current weather conditions are less than visual, you can get special VFR in controlled airspace. That's what the main thing is. You got to be in controlled airspace, designated for an airport. You need an ATC clearance. You need to be clear of clouds, and visibility's got to be greater than 1 mile. Special VFR at night requires the pilot and aircraft to be IFR certified. So, all right. Before we talk about airspace details, a couple of things. What's two-way radio communication? That's going to come up as a requirement for all these types of airspace. We're going to talk about what a transponder actually is. That's a required equipment for many types. We'll talk about what Adsb is, very, very, very broadly. Very big picture, what's VFR versus IFR? Basically, these pictures say it all. And what's a clearance? Okay, so two-way radio communication, what is it? First of all, it's required for entering airspace of all towered airports. You need two-way radio communication. And what it is it's whenever you transmit to a tower or to this controller, and you're like, hey, like, this is where I'm at, this is the altitude that I'm at, requesting landing on whatever runway, and they say your tail number back, make left traffic for blah blah blah, right? And then they follow up with your number. What if they reply with your tail number included? Then that counts as two-way radio communication, and you are permitted to enter that airspace. Not the same as a clearance. Not the same as a clearance. We'll talk about what a clearance is, right? Here's an example of two-way radio communication. Torrance Tower, Cessna 65710, 3500 over Angels Gate, requesting 29er right with information Romeo. 65710, Torrance Tower, proceed straight in, direct the numbers. Number 1, clear to land runway 29er right. And then you read that back, right? That they gave you that tail number right there in the blue. Two-way radio communication has been established, okay? What is a transponder? A transponder is the box, like we said, that allows ATC to know that there's somebody there, and, like, if you have altitude reporting capabilities, what your altitude is. Or if you have Adsb integrated, what your tail number is, what your speed is, and other kinds of cool things. But really what it is it's a box that replies with a signal, that 4-digit code, that upon receiving an interrogation from the ground, it replies with that. So that is different from something that sends a signal out initially. Upon receiving an interrogation, it replies. All right. And it replies with that 4-digit code there, like we said. In this regard, it helps ATC maintain separation between aircraft. So that's what a transponder is. All right. 1200 is for VFR. And so what's Adsb? Because Adsb is something we're going to mention too that's required for certain types of airspace. And what Adsb is it's automatic dependent surveillance broadcasting, and that is essentially what it is it's communication. It's microwaves that are communicating your ID and position between other aircraft, up to satellites, and between the ground, between aircraft in the area, between satellites and ground stations. It's constant communication on who is where, assuming you have the capability to receive ADSB in. But that's what ADSB is. ADSB is a step in the direction of what's called next gen airspace, that we're the modernization, like the effort to modernize our airspace here in the United States. We have made ADSB a standard and a requirement in certain types of, in many types of airspace. Wherever a mode C is required, essentially wherever a mode C is required, ADSB is required as well. And mode C is not, there's many places mode C is not required. Many places, not even a radio is required for communication, right? But the fact is in a good amount of places, mode C is required, and wherever mode C is, ADSB is also required. I should say ADSB out is required. Right now, ADSB in is not a legal requirement. And what I mean by that is ADSB out as a requirement means that wherever mode C is required, ADSB is broadcasting the position of the aircraft, of the said aircraft. It's what's required is the ability to broadcast. Raid Captain Seppi with a party of 10. Valiant, what is going on? Thank you so much for the raid. Welcome everybody. Captain with the sub, my goodness. Thank you so much. Welcome everybody from Captain Seppi's channel, and you guys are super welcome. Muted Phil. I'm muted? I fucking hope not. I've been talking for the past hour. But anyways, I don't think, yeah, I'm not. Or are you saying muted like, oh, okay. Awesome. Sounds good, dude. Yeah, so ADSB out is what is required wherever their mode C is required. And we already talked, we alluded to a couple different types of airspace where mode C is actually required. We said mode C was a consideration within 30 miles of Class Bravo airspace. We also said mode C is oh, and by the way, for those of you that are coming over from Captain Seppi, I'm a CFI down here in Los Angeles, and it's a pleasure to meet you guys. Tonight we are doing a ground school and sim geared toward the private pilot. We're looking at airspace as ground, and then we're gonna hop in the airplane in Microsoft Flight Sim and fly around Los Angeles, looking at these different types of airspace, utilizing pilotage techniques from the airplane. And I have a ForeFlight that I'm gonna throw up on the screen there, and we'll be utilizing those skills to ascertain like where we actually are. So welcome. Okay, so that's what ADSB is, and that is what's required. That ability of your aircraft to communicate with other aircraft, to at least broadcast that signal out, where aircraft with ADSB in capability can take that signal and can do something about it. They can actually like interpret where you are, what the tail number is, what direction you're headed, what altitude you're at. A lot of really, really cool things after receiving all of that communication between aircraft from satellites, and very much like WAS, where it's like a lot of things happening at once very, very rapidly, to determine the accuracy of like, an accurate position of something. That's kind of what's going on with ADSB. There's an example of like what you might see like on a display, or on a Garmin Pilot app or a ForeFlight app. Actually, it doesn't look like this on ForeFlight, but this is what it would look like on like the traffic screen of some avionics, like of an aircraft with ADS-B in. This aircraft totally has ADS-B in, and you know that it does because this all these different airplanes on here. You've got 492 Sierra Charlie. We've got 733 November Bravo. These are all like tail numbers. You know what I mean? This is like IDs of aircraft and what altitude they're at with respect to you. That's all ADS-B in stuff. Very, very cool. Myself, my awesome girlfriend got me an ADS-B receiver. And what that does is that does take ADS, all these aircraft that are broadcasting ADS-B out, it takes those signals and it tells me on my ForeFlight where the aircraft are. Very, very invaluable from an instructor's standpoint to know exactly where the traffic is. So I know where they are, and then I could just watch a student scan for traffic, and does the student see it or not? So, okay. So ADS-B out required in Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie, and Echo airspace above 10,000 feet MSL, but not below 2,500 feet AGL. Those are all of the places where Mode C is required. In and we've got Class Alpha, in and above Class Bravo, in and above Class Charlie, within 30 nautical miles of Class Bravo. All of these places, this is where ADS-B is also required. All right. VFR versus IFR. This is an important consideration for certain types of airspace, mainly because when we're talking about airspace, we're talking about VFR. We're like operating VFR, and versus IFR, airspace is not really a concern when you're IFR. Other than, are you in controlled airspace or not? Other than that, you're just doing your thing. Now, you do need to know what airspace you're in when you are canceling IFR. If you're going to cancel IFR, that you better know what type of airspace you're in, because that will be what type of weather VFR weather minimums are required. So we do need to talk about this VFR versus IFR thing really quick. Big picture, long story short, VFR is a set of regulations and rules that pertain to flying under what are called visual conditions. Certain types of rules concerning required fuel, daytime, nighttime VFR, required equipment for daytime VFR, nighttime VFR, certain types of VFR weather minimums, that type of thing, and it is VFR. It tends to be less restricted than IFR. IFR, on the other hand, it's a separate set of rules. Let me move my face out of the way. Bam. I don't know if you guys watch Trailer Park Boys. Bam! Green eggs and ham. IFR is a set of regulations that pertain to flight under instrument conditions and instrument meteorological conditions, namely. These are a separate set of rules, starting with 91-167, that pertain to things like specifically what counts as what qualifies as an eligible alternate airport. Certain types of inspections, aircraft inspections, are required for IFR operation. Certain types of, how do we conduct ourselves, lost comm. This is what we mean by VFR versus IFR. It's a different set of rules depending on what we're actually doing. All right. Finally, what's a clearance? So a clearance starts with controller responsibilities. Controller responsibilities, the main controller responsibility is to keep aircraft separated and to issue clearances. A clearance is definitely different from two-way radio communication. When you get a clearance, yeah, you have established two-way radio communication, yes, but not all two-way radio communication counts as a clearance. So we talked about a couple different types of airspace that require clearances. We said Class Bravo requires a separate, specific Class Bravo clearance. You are cleared to enter Class Bravo, and you would read that back. Maintain VFR will often accompany that. Class Alpha is also a type of airspace that requires a clearance. It requires an IFR clearance. And special VFR. Special VFR is a type of clearance that you need. All right. 65710, cleared to enter class Bravo. Maintain VFR. Cleared to enter class Bravo, 65710, right? So there you are, cleared to enter class Bravo. We had a, when was that? That was definitely maybe like the last week of September. We had an IFR Tuesday night about clearances. And one of the things that we said was pilot and controller share responsibility. Yes, it's up to the controller to issue clearances and instructions, keep aircraft separated, but it's up to the pilot to understand whether you can comply with a clearance or not. That's your responsibility. And just because you receive one of the things we talked about was just because you receive a clearance doesn't preclude you from doing what you need to do to comply with that clearance. Like, for example, let's say you are cleared to, let's say you get two-way radio communication and you're cleared to climb to a higher altitude that would put you in class Bravo. You were cleared to climb by ATC, but you need a Bravo clearance. That's on you to get it. So here you are, cleared to climb, and you're climbing through class Bravo. You get handed off. The next controller says, hey, did you get a Bravo clearance? And you say, well, no, but the ATC said I was clear to climb. And they go, okay, well, you still need a Bravo clearance. And what are you going to get all defensive? And you're going to say, like, no, like, they told me I could climb. Why did they tell me I could climb then? It's not up to them to make sure that you're following the rules. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's up to you to get this Bravo clearance. And just because you're cleared to climb doesn't mean that you're cleared automatically through it. So double check. Okay, Class Alpha, we're going to go through the different types of airspace, looking at operations permitted, entry requirements, pilot qualifications, radio communications, VFR weather, and equipment. So we've got IFR only in Class Alpha, all right? To enter, you need an ATC clearance, namely an IFR clearance. You need an instrument rating. The minimum pilot qualifications here, yeah, you need to be private pilot with instrument rating. And because you need an IFR clearance, not only do you need an instrument rating, you need to be IFR. You need to be legally able to accept an IFR clearance and file an IFR flight plan. Two-way radio communications wise, of course you need two-way radio communications because when you get your IFR clearance, that's a special clearance that also includes two-way radio communication. Now, what are the VFR? The tricky question I like to ask students on private pilot check ride prep is, what are the VFR weather minimums in Class Alpha? There are none. You're IFR. Okay. Equipment requirements. Because Mode C is required, you also need a Adsb. All right, so Adsb is required. And you need to be IFR equipped. So that would be 91205D. You need to be IFR equipped. Mode C as well. All right, so that's Class Alpha. Class Bravo, we've got IFR and VFR operations. Both IFR and VFR. That's nice. You do need a clearance to enter Class Bravo, whether you're VFR or IFR, actually. If you're IFR in all of these types of airspace, if you're IFR, an IFR clearance is required, right? But the Bravo clearance is separate. Like if you're VFR, prior to entering Class Bravo, you need a Bravo clearance. Now, interestingly enough, as a minimum, what the minimum pilot qualifications are, if all you need to be is a private pilot, or if you're a student pilot, you are allowed into Class Bravo, many Class Bravos. In fact, I want to say, you can double check me on this, and if I'm wrong, feel free, to call me out at any time. But I want to say that all Class Bravos permit student operation, student pilot operation, assuming you're endorsed, obviously. But it's certain types of Bravos that prohibit landing at Class Bravo. So, two-way radio communication is required, but of course it is. When you get your clearance, you've made two-way radio communication. VFR weather minimums wise, cat toy. See, this is when I need that command, that Yeah, Crazy Condor. Yeah, definitely the student needs an endorsement. I know that, but I'm just blanking on, if I'm not mistaken, all Class Bravos, if you are a student with an endorsement, all Class Bravos you're permitted to operate within, as long as you're, there are regulations. Not only are you endorsed, but in order to get the endorsement, you needed to have been trained in the specific Bravo, like as in operating in and all that stuff and all those things. But I believe that you're allowed to enter into that airspace of all the Class Bravos. It's the class, or I'm sorry, it's the landing at the Class Bravo that some are just like, nah, like, get out of here. I believe that that's the case. What I was saying is I need to figure out my voice commands. You know what? I'm gonna turn off my cat toy here, and then I'm gonna pretend that I have a chat command, and I'm gonna say I'm gonna get my cat toy out, and I'm gonna have fun with it. No. Yeah, dude. Frisky dingo, my friends. That is not coming in very loud, is it? Is that quiet? That's pretty quiet, huh? How about this?
A rice chicken.
A rice chicken.
A rice chicken.
A rice
chicken.
Chicken and rice.
It's pretty quiet. Is that coming in pretty quiet? Let me see here.
A rice chicken.
A rice chicken.
A rice chicken.
A rice
chicken.
Chicken and rice.
a chicken or rise. Yeah, let me know if that was coming in plenty, you know, volume and enough volume, because yeah, I'm trying to download and, or like, you know, video or edit my the clips that I want to use for sound, like chat commands. And I just put in my my sound alerts today.
Right.
Will Dog, thank you for the follow. Welcome, sir. And I appreciate the support. Anyway, Class Bravo, what are the VFR weather? Got my cat toy out is what my point is. My cat toy, VFR weather minimums wise, what do we got for Class Bravo? We're talking about that triangle right there. Below 10,000 feet MSL. Right, remember we were saying the vertical limits of Class Bravo surface to 10,000 unless otherwise specified. So it's like we've got oh, dude, pleasure's mine. I insist. We've got Class Bravo is what's discussed in this VFR weather triangle. We've got 3 miles visibility, but we got to remain clear of clouds. It's not 1,000 above or 500 below and 2,000 horizontal. We clear of clouds. Very, very important. Even if you're in the flight, even if you're just flight simmers, you know, I mean, and I don't mean just, you know what I mean? Like, flight simming is like very near and dear to my heart. Like, this is definitely relevant lecture to you guys as well. But this is what I use for my students as a flight instructor. I use this for my students as well. But to comply with these, if you're on with VATSIM or you know, Pilot Edge, and you're taking your flight simming like seriously, as we all should, we're all there to have fun, but you know, we're over here to simulate what actually goes on in real life. I think a lot of the time, at least, it's important to know like what these are. There's your Class Bravo right there. 3 miles, clear clouds below 10,000 feet MSL. Okay, what are some of the requirements? ADSB, ADSB, that's not to say ADSB in. This is ADSB while operating within and above, in, above, and within 30 nautical miles of the Bravo. We need ADSB, okay? And again, that's ADSB out that's required. Mode C is also required in and above Class Bravo, but also within 30 miles of Class Bravo. Anywhere Mode C is required, ADS-B is required. Two-way radio, VOR receiver if you are IFR, unless you have suitable RNAV. All right. Class Charlie, what do we got? IFR and VFR operations permitted. Class entry requirements. If you're IFR, guess what? You're IFR, okay? But really what it is no clearance is required for Class Charlie. That's important to know. No clearance is required. Only two-way radio communication. That tail number or that tail number is just needs to be included. Interesting kind of thing about Class Charlie and Class Bravo Airport is within 20 nautical miles, you're going to be contacting this approach controller. So there you go. This is kind of where it's represented on the chart. In the north, it's 121.3, and the northeast 135.4 if you're coming from the northeast. There's your control tower frequency right there. That's who you're going to be calling. That's who SoCal Approach is going to hand you off to, and you're going to establish two-way radio communication with them. You're allowed to be a student in Class Charlie. Student pilot. It's fine. VFR Weather Minimums, you're in this middle triangle right here. Most types of controlled airspace are going to be in this type of... In fact, all the controlled airspace is in here except for Alpha. Bravo, Charlie, Delta, and Echo. We're talking below 10,000 feet, 3 miles visibility, 1 mile above, or 1 mile above, Jesus. 1,000 feet above, 500 feet below, and 2,000 feet horizontally. We're talking about that. 3 miles visibility for Class Charlie, VFR Weather Minimums. ADS-B in and above, but not below. Not below. Just like Mode C is not required below Class Charlie. There's your Mode C in and above Class Charlie. This is another representation of a transponder with the altitude function on. You would just press that altitude button right there. Two-way radio communication is required. Remember, we said that no clearance is required. Okay. Class Delta, we got IFR and VFR as well. Controlled airspace, so you can be IFR. But no clearance required. Two-way radio communication only required. There is no clearance, right? Of course, you can be a student. VFR Weather Minimums, boom, we're back to the Class Charlie, 3152. 1,000 feet above, 500 below, 2,000 horizontally. 3 miles visibility. The thing to note is the 1,000 above and the 500 below. The reason why it's 1,000 above and 500 below. This is a really good point. If you're going into a check ride, why is that, right? And you're like, well, I don't know. It's the rules, right? It just says it right here, and I don't need to know why. Like, the rules are what they are, and I'm going to follow the rules. It's like, no, they want you to know the reason why. And the reason why is because one of the responsibilities is IFR separation, right? One of the controller responsibilities is IFR separation, right? Separation of traffic. What they're allowing you to do by 1,000-foot clearance above and 500 below is if you are 500 feet below the clouds, and you really should be more, but what 500 feet below the clouds permit is if there is some IFR traffic coming out of that cloud, typically it's at 500 feet a minute. The descent rate is 500 feet per minute. So what that means is ideally that gives you time. If you're 500 feet below the cloud that guy is coming out of, that gives you, and they're descending at 500 feet per minute, that gives you 1 minute to react to them. And that's nice, 1,000 feet above the clouds, on average, that's basically what a lot of traffic climbing are. They're climbing at some climb rate that's something around there. Ideally, if you're in a 152, good luck. But in a powerful 172, where it's a single pilot, maybe you're light, definitely. If you're at sea level, it depends on your density altitude. But yeah, 1,000 feet per minute. Something like that. Yeah, 900 feet a minute or 1,100 feet, depending on whatever, It's ideally, you're on average, you're going to have around a minute to react to somebody that pops out through the cloud IFR. Two-way radio communication is required. Class Echo. Let's look at all the different types of Class Echo. IFR and VFR. How can it be IFR if there's no tower at this airport? because in this type of class, in class Echo is a type of, it's not about towered or non-towered. Class Echo is about control. Class Echo is a controlled airspace zone. It's a type of controlled airspace. So where there's controlled airspace, IFR is possible. If you are IFR, you do need an IFR clearance, but you do not need two-way radio communication. Two-way radio communication with who? You know, it's a non-towered airport. You're not calling any tower to establish two-way radio communication. So, yeah, two-way radio not required for Class Echo. At no point, this is not just in the airport environment. This is in Class Echo. Unless you're in some other type of, you know, unless you're, you know, like you could be in, as long as you're in Class Echo, two-way radio is not required, which is kind of crazy, you know, but there are people that do it, you know, and totally legal. Student pilot minimum and VFR weather minimums. You've got Class Echo in, below 10,000 feet and above 10,000 feet. So below 10,000 feet, we are back to 3152 right there. 3152. 3 miles visibility, 1,000 feet above, 2,000 feet below, and 1,000 miles visibility. All right, below 10,000 feet, we said 1,000 above, 500, 2,000, and 3. Above 10,000, aircraft are moving much more quickly. Their true airspeeds are higher. They're probably higher performance aircraft anyways. You got to have more separation. First of all, 1,000 feet above is fine. At those altitudes, yeah, you know, the 1,000, it's not a ton of time, but yeah, you do have some aircraft that are, you know, performing that low. If you're a turboprop or a jet, obviously you're screaming at 3,000 feet a minute or whatever, so whatever. But 1,000 above, 1,000 below, but a mile horizontally, a mile away from clouds horizontally. Gives you some time to react to aircraft flying at high truer airspeeds, as well as to respond to it with the optical illusions associated with clouds and stuff, and reduced visibility. So, equipment requirements wise, Class Echo is normally it's not required unless Mode C is required, right? If you're in Class Echo but you're within 30 miles of the Mode C veil of Class Bravo, then yeah, you do need ADSB. But in terms of other ADSB in generic Class Echo, normally it's not required unless you're above 10,000 feet MSL. Above 10,000 feet MSL, but not less than 2,500 feet AGL, your class or ADSB is required. As well as Class Echo 3 to 10,000 MSL, 12 miles off of the coast. All right. Finally, Class Golf is everywhere Class Echo is not. So, types of operations. So VFR is permitted, obviously, in Class Golf, but as well as flight into IMC. But for IFR, the pilot's got to be in controlled airspace. No entry requirements. Student pilot, you basically got to have a pulse. And weather minimum wise, it kind of gets complicated, right? But let's try and break this down here. We've got above 10,000 feet MSL, below 10,000 feet MSL at night, and below 10,000 feet MSL during the day, but above 1,200 feet AGL, and during the day below 1,200 feet AGL. So let's take a look at what's going on. Above 10,000 feet MSL, Class Golf, we got the 1,000 above, 1,000 below, 1 mile visibility right there. It's pretty plain to see. 5 miles visibility. Or I should say 1 mile horizontally, 5 miles visibility. Class Golf during the day, below 10,000 feet MSL, but above 1,200 AGL. We've got 1,000 above, 500 below, 2,000 feet horizontally, and instead of 3 miles visibility, right, it's kind of similar to the other airspace over here, 3152. It's 1152. It's 1,000 above, 500 below, 2,000 horizontally with 1 mile visibility. 1 mile visibility above 1,200 feet AGL class Golf, that is ridiculous. I don't know if any of you have actually flown a real airplane in anything less than 5 miles or 6 miles visibility. It's uncomfortable. If you're not instrument rated, obviously, I'm you know, as a new pilot, I'll say it's and as a pilot, whether you're new or not, if you're not instrument rated, it's super uncomfortable to be in around 5 miles visibility. So the fact that you can be 1 mile visibility above 1,200 feet AGL is bonkers. It is absolutely bonkers. Below 1,200 feet AGL, clear of clouds is what we're looking for if you're operating within the half a mile of the airport. All right. Class Golf at night below 10, we're talking about 3152. We're talking about 3152 right there, okay? Unless you're like we said, we saw clearly in the regulation, 1,200 feet AGL, below 1,200 feet AGL at night, you're good. You're good with visibility less than 3 miles. So, okay, special types, special use airspace. All right, we've got prohibited airspace that's charted like this. Prohibited, restricted, and warning airspace are these hash mark airspace right here. Restricted airspace. So it's prohibited. I want to say prohibited and restricted are the types of airspace that are that require prior like a prior clearance, like a prior permission to go through them, whereas the others don't. But yeah, so you got restricted right there, again as a blue hash. Warning is also blue hash. Not prior acknowledgement or prior permission is not required in warning. Neither is it required in military operating area, believe it or not. You do not need a prior acknowledgement or prior permission to go through the MOA. Although the reality is this: all of the contact frequencies are published on the sectionals and the TAC charts. You should totally hit them up before you go into this airspace to see if it's hot or not, or if what's going on, just to talk to somebody. Still do it. Same with alert areas is red hash. All right. Oh yeah, here we go. So we clarify here. So prohibited areas, airspace within which flight is prohibited. Go figure. And check NOTAMs. Check NOTAMs. Restricted. A pilot's got to receive prior permission of the controlling agency. Military training usually. There's an example of the restricted space there of who to contact. So here's an example of let's say it's restricted 2501 Charlie. There you have it right there. Actually, 2501 Alpha, Bravo, and Charlie are these zones right here. They're depicted right here. Unlimited altitude all the time. Contact LA Center on that frequency right there to get that permission. This box and these frequencies you can see at the top of a sectional or to the side, different places I've seen it. They're on the sectional chart somewhere. Warning areas, usually containing some military operations. Very similarly, you've got the frequency right there. Exercise extreme caution when going through MOAs, although you're not required to contact them. You really should, though. You could also contact any flight service station within 100 nautical miles of a military operating area to obtain any information pertaining to that. But really what you should have done is got a standard weather briefing and looked at NOTAMs and talked to the briefer. If your route goes right through an MOA, you would have called the briefer on WX Brief or 1-800-WX Brief and had them, talk you through that. There's an example of the names of MOAs and how they're actually listed. And there's a frequency right there. Alert areas. High volume of traffic. No specific controlling agency nor is crossing clearance required. Pilots transitioning are equally responsible for collision avoidance. Very cool. Very cool. I want to say around Area 51, it's all alert and prohibited areas. I mean, obviously there are MOAs around there too. But let's see here. It's the Las Vegas sectional. Do you guys think I'm going to get like the government knocking on my front door by looking at the sectional chart around Area 51? So this is Area 51 right here. And looking at the airspace around it, Area 51's in the center of the screen. And you got like a ton of shit around there, man. First of all, you have a lot of restricted areas. And so do you think that they're going to like let you in? You're just going to call them up and be like, hey, you guys, we're a Cessna 152 or 172. We're on our way to Area 51. We thought we'd check out the aliens and the super secret technologies and stuff. But we know that we got to call in and we got to call you guys for the permission first. So we thought we'd let you guys know. They're like, yeah, notice the F-16s that are all around you. Like, turn around now or we'll shoot you down. And they're like, ooh, why? Do you guys have aliens there? It sounds like you guys have aliens there. So anyway, yeah, Groom Lake is where Area 51 is. And it looks like you got restricteds. You got this humongo desert MOA. Humongous desert MOA right there is what it's called, desert. There's another MOA right there. So there you go. Yeah, no alert areas. It's all restricted and MOA. Cool, man. You got the Grand Canyon right there. That's nice. There's a special type of airspace, too. Special flight rules area. VFR special flight rules around the Grand Canyon. So anyway, yeah, you can see here around Area 51 a lot of restricted special use airspace. All right. Advisory areas. So other type of airspace, we got military training routes depicted as IFR or VFR traffic, these like kind of ghost gray lines right there.
Cat party.
Gotta get my cat toy out. Yeah, these lines right here. Military training routes. TFRs that are this like red, they show up as these like red sort of circles. TFRs are typically temporary in nature. They're temporary flight restrictions. There's a permanent one around Disneyland in my neck of the woods, but they're normally temporary in nature, and they could be for various reasons. They could be for like president, comes to town or something, or they could use the TFRs for like sectioning off firefighting that's going on. And that type of thing. Okay, so that's airspace. That's airspace. Let's hop in the airplane and look at some pilotage. Some pilotage skills to know where the airspace actually is. And I'm going to get my tablet. I'm going to be right back. I'm also going to set up my sim. So what my plan is to take you guys around Los Angeles with the chart out, with the LA TAC chart, and do some touch and goes at various airports that, in my experience as an instructor here, these are airports that I like to use when I'm teaching my students like pilotage techniques. When I'm teaching students how to stay oriented and teaching them about like how to use things on the ground, easily recognizable spots on the ground to know where the airspace is. There are certain types of places where it's like really, really great examples. We're doing pretty great on time. I thought that was going to go a lot longer. I've been trying to be better about my my ground school like to sim ratio there. I hope everybody's week is treating them well. All right, sweet. And we're just gonna hop in like the 172. Keep it super simple, very very straightforward. Today is not about speed. Matter of fact, I'm gonna take you to certain places and pause it so we can see what's going on. All right, there it is. Get my head tracker going. Got my chart. Let me just clear out my previous flight plan there. All right, and we are going to be VFR for tonight. And let's take off out of... Babe! My girlfriend just texted me. She says, I love Babe in the hat. I feel like a child. I feel like a 10-year-old. I feel like my inner 11-year-old Phil like comes out when I wear that hat. When I'm like, all right, guys, let's go fly. Let's go play in the sim. There's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Nothing wrong with that. Inner child. So. By the way, now that there are actually more people in here, I did want to say before we hop in the sim, in June of 2022, I am taking one for the team, and I am taking my girlfriend to see Backstreet Boys reunion, and I'm actually super fucking pumped about it. Now, here's the thing: is if you guys can, while we do this, and this is super super serious flight instruction time. Actually, it's not flight instruction. Obviously, if you're going to go fly and attempt things like go with another instructor and be trained to do it, and don't, this is for entertainment purposes and all that legal stuff. What I do want to say, hey, with the bits, dude. What I did want to say, that's fantastic. Oh, I need to change the actual art that's on there, though. or like whatever comes up. What I did want to say is if you could join the Discord and find a Power Puff. Is it Powder Puff, actually? Not Power Puff. It's Powder Puff, correct? It's Power Puff. Dang. Oh, Powder Puff is like the football and stuff, right? Yeah, Powerpuff Girls. So if you could go on a Google search on the Powerpuff Girls, find me a women's t-shirt Powerpuff Girls that I should wear to the Backstreet Boys reunion that I'm taking my girlfriend to next year. You guys can post a picture of it in the general Discord. Let me know. And so join the Discord and post in there and let me know. Best one gets a shout out, and I'll figure some, reward for the best one. Okay. I'm pumped. I'm fucking jazzed, dude. Evening, Ordinary, what's up? All right, we're just hopping into the plane right now. And I'm good, dude. Let's do it. Hopefully there's not a big download or a update or anything. Ordinary, what's going on, man? Welcome. Yeah, Katie, so I have to figure out how to actually change the, while we're waiting for the Microsoft Flight Sim to load up here. I got to figure out how to, and it's not, I didn't have time today to do it, but what I want to do is make the sound alerts, like the visualization, like, pull up something dope. Busy day, fixing to fly some DCS and unwind. I love it, man. I love it. That sounds fantastic. Right now, we're actually in the middle of a stream session. We've been going for a couple hours about airspace, different types of airspace, and how they're represented and what the rules are. And now we're going in the airplane or flying around Los Angeles and utilizing pilotage skills to understand where we are and where the airspace actually is. So that'll be really, really cool. But alas, I missed the F-18. Condor, I'm really glad you liked it. I'm really, really glad. Airspace is a tough one to teach because it's like kind of is what it is. You try and make it interesting by like seeing, talking about how they relate to each other. Some weird like cases, some weird, some different examples. Examples of Charlie, examples of Bravo, examples of Delta, the different types of Echo. You kind of make it interesting and stuff, but honestly, that's what I love about this segment of it is like just going in the airplane and just flying around LA, especially is one of the best places you can go do it because it's so airspace dense here. We could just fly around and really look at airspace from a pilotage standpoint. Pilotage, name by the way, for those of you that are not familiar, like pilotage is the fundamental method of navigation for pilots in general. Like for pilots that are operating somewhat near to the ground, that are in visual conditions, pilotage is the main way to do it. Now, like really what we're trying to do, there are 3 methods of navigation that we want to be acquainted with, and a good pilot's going to use all 3 at one time. The first kind of navigation is pilotage, and that is where we are, like we've been saying, discerning, ascertaining our position based on visual references outside. What are the visual references that we see? And then where are we with respect to them? And then you look at a chart and you determine where you are. It's positional awareness based on that. And then specifically where you are with respect to certain types of airspace. That's pilotage. Looking outside, relating what you see to a chart, and you're looking out for airspace. Second type of method of navigation is called dead reckoning, and dead reckoning is calculation-based navigation. That is that you're doing time, distance, and fuel calculations between points, between any two given points that form a straight line, and what you're going to have are a series of those segments along a route as you go to a place. So you're going to have time, distance, and fuel calculations for each of those segments, and you're going to keep track of that all along the way as you fly a course, you know, or headings, ideally. Third method of navigation is electronic, where you're using VORs or GPS to determine where you are, you know, or to navigate. And ideally, we use all three together at once. That's what a really good pilot does. But it all starts with pilotage, and doing what we're going to do today in the plane. This is what you do as a basic flight training student, is learning to fly the airplane, but then looking outside and recognizing where you are, because you've never seen the world like this before. You know, normally we're used to freeways and streets and things like that, and things come at us more slowly. But it's just not the way up there. It's much bigger scale. Ooh, the diamond would be actually pretty cool. TBM. Do some aerobatics in the pits. Let's go in this 172 for right now, but then if you guys want something else, we could totally do that. Do it in the Caravan would actually be pretty cool. I don't really know that airplane. Let's depart out of where? You know what? Let's depart. Let's go into Los Angeles from Corona. So we're gonna start off at AJO. Yeah, that'd be actually really cool. Let's start outside of LA and just enter LA. AJO. And let's go sky clear. Sounds good, man. Using the old school kind of VR or IR tracker. Lion King's where it's at, dude. You know what? In this shirt right here, I got from Target. Target is where it's really at. Target knows what the hell is going on, dude. Thank you, by the way, for the compliment on the Lion King t-shirt. Pretty cool, man. Actually, really quick. Kohl's is climbing. Target is greater than Walmart. Zach, where are you on Kohl's, though? Because I have not really been to Kohl's. Katie is saying Kohl's is climbing the ladder, dude. Is Kohl's encroaching? Look at this here. You got your Simba right here, man. You got all, like, these cool designs and stuff, like, kind of African kind of theme. It's really, really freaking cool, man. Really cool. Kohl's isn't something I have out here, so I'll have to take her word on it. Yeah, she does know. She does know what's going on. But I think Target's got to be better. What is Target above Kohl's? And they're climbing the ladder toward Target, or what's up? Like, what are we talking about? You know? me just get my IR tracker figured out here. Oh, target's probably still on top. Damn, okay. I love it. Good backup though. Hey, awesome. Okay, you guys. So here we are in the 172. We're in Corona. We're at Corona Airport. We're out on the runway. I want to say, what is it actually? I'm looking at. Oh, you can actually pull it up right here for you guys. There we go. And then I need to do, that's right, the live events. One sec here. Flight events. Okay, so there we are. We're over there at the Corona Airport. You can see that blue dot right there. Now you'll notice here, like we talked about airspace tonight, right? So let's actually blow this up. What type of airspace is Corona? What type of airspace is Corona? Corona, first of all, is it class Bravo? Is it class Alpha? Absolutely not. Is it class Bravo? Definitely not. We don't see it towered. We actually don't see it towered either because it's magenta colored. It's the airport outline itself is magenta colored. It is not class Delta. It is not class Charlie. It does have a solid magenta around it, but that is definitely not Corona. That solid magenta is that airport's solid magenta right there. That is Ontario. That's Ontario. See, so it's underneath the surf or the shelf area of Class Charlie airspace. The shelving that starts at 2,700 feet, by the way. That's what that is right there. 2,700 feet. So if it's not class Bravo, it's not class Charlie, it's not class Delta. Cleared approach, rating with a party of 36. Cleared approach, thank you so much for the raid. I was watching your channel earlier. I love what you do, and I love this. That type of content is really interesting. Really interesting. So, thank you so much for the raid. Welcome everybody from Cleared Approach. I hope to give you a really interesting perspective on aviation as you are coming over here from Cleared. I'm a certified flight instructor down here in Los Angeles, and tonight, and what I try and do is Tuesdays I offer ground and sim for the IFR pilot. Really, all are welcome, but it's IFR Tuesdays, and then Wednesdays and Thursdays are geared to the private pilot. The Wednesdays are ground and sim, different topics, regulations, weather, all different kinds of things. Tonight we did airspace. We just came off of an hour and a half or so lecture or ground school of different types of airspace, what the rules are regarding airspace, what we mean by VFR weather, what are the VFR weather requirements, what are the equipment requirements, how are they represented on the chart. And part 2 of that is to fly around Los Angeles, a very airspace dense area, and utilizing pilotage skills from the 172 to determine where this airspace actually is. So thank you so much for the cheer. I appreciate it tremendously. And so right here we've got a 4-flight up on the display there, and looking at Corona. We're actually down here in Corona, and the plan is to go from Corona out west and enter the LA basin, where we've got Class Delta airspace, we've got Class Echo, we've got Bravo, you know, we've got Charlie to contend with on the way. We've got John Wayne Class Charlie airspace there. We've got Ontario Charlie there. And I know you're legit when it's ForeFlight and not Navigraph. Hey! Thank you for the acknowledgement, man. Absolutely, dude. This is from my tablet. This is what I use, you know. Now, this isn't going to be like a flight where, you know, right now we're just about airspace. So normally what happens is that we start up, we get you know, get the weather, we get our clearance, we like go through the whole shebang. I use Pilot Edge. That's when you know you're legit as well. But tonight it's about getting in the air and actually identifying this airspace. The one thing I will say, and the people that were here before the raid will, they already know about this, but I need your help. For those of you that are new to the channel, I need your help. I need your, I would appreciate it if you followed or joined my Discord. And as a loving boyfriend, I am taking my girlfriend next year to the Backstreet Boys reunion tour down here in San Diego, or down here in Los Angeles. I'm going to take her to that concert in June of 2022. I need you to join my Discord, and if you can, what I want to do is wear a girly t-shirt, a Powerpuff Girls t-shirt when I take her to this concert. And so if you could go on Google Images, find the Powerpuff t-shirt that I should wear and post it in the Discord, and the winner gets something. I have yet to, you know, figure out what that is, but I'd really appreciate the help. Okay, so here in Corona, we are actually Class Golf. We are Class Golf airspace. We know that we're Class Golf because we have no Class Echo dotted magenta around the airport. We're definitely not Class Delta. We're definitely not Class Bravo. We're not Class Charlie. We are within the see that faded magenta, that surrounds the LA basin, that around the border there. We are inside of the faded magenta. We are inside of all of that faded magenta around the border there. So what that tells us is that on the ground we are Class Golf up to what altitude? Inside the faded magenta, Class Echo starts at 700 feet AGL. Now, this is all about pilotage. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off out of here and go west. And what we want to do is look for the Prado Dam right out off of our nose. Prado Dam is one of the first things that we want to look out for. It's a prominent visual landmark on the ground, and that marks the edge of the Class Charlie airspace. You see that right there? That magenta flag right there. It says Prado Dam. There's that magenta flag. That marks the edge of that airspace, and that's what we're trying to do. Once we know we're actually west of Prado Dam, we could climb to whatever altitude we want. So, you know, normally we'd be on with ATC or something, but for right now, we're actually gonna climb to we'll call it 3,000 feet. All right, so let's go ahead and do that. All right, and Corona traffic, Cessna 65710 is taking the active runway 25 straight out departure Corona traffic. All right. All right, and systems are green on the roll. Airspeed is alive. Crazy Condor, you're off to bed, late night, but have a nice flight. Thank you so much for joining me tonight, and I appreciate your energy. Really, really nice having you here. Have a great rest, and we'll see you hopefully tomorrow. All right. So the real question is, where is Prado Dam? We're out here. Should be off of our right side. Just keeping a look around. This freeway right here off to our left is the 91 freeway. We just want to make sure that we keep that in sight. There's Prado Dam right there in the corner window. Pause this. There's Prado Dam right there. So see, very, very crucial that we know where this dam actually is, because it marks the edge of the Charlie airspace from that airport way off in the distance out there. We need to know where this dam is. See this right here? That dam marks the edge of that airspace we said. And there we are right there. It's right off of our 2 to 3 o'clock position. So that definitely is the dam, and we are clear to climb now above 2,700 feet now that we are actually clear of that class Charlie. So we got that 91 freeway underneath us. I actually kind of like to stay, there's Prado Dam for sure. We are 1,008 climbing to 3,000. Yep, there's the 91 freeway. The next visual point is, looks like Santa Ana Canyon Pass. You can see it right there off of our nose. And that is going to, it's going to be our next pilotage spot. We're just going to be keeping that 91 freeway off to our left-hand side. The hills look beautiful. Right now, what airspace are we in? We're clear of Class Charlie. We were never in Class Charlie. We're not in Bravo. Right, we're in Class Echo right now. We're in Class Echo because we are inside of the faded magenta that surrounds all of LA. And we're above 700 feet. All of that Echo starts at 700 feet inside the faded magenta, unless it otherwise specifies. You can see our position right there. Santa Ana Canyon Pass should be off to our 11 o'clock. And it is. Santa Ana Canyon Pass is like right where this freeway, it's just like this area right here. So that's nice. Santa Ana Canyon Pass. So after Santa Ana Canyon Pass, what do we have? First of all, very, very important that we use pilotage to stay clear of the Charlie to the south. I'm gonna pause this here. We have Charlie off to our left wingtip. All out there. You can see that on the chart. I'm gonna shrink this down. You can see that in the chart. There we are, and we have solid magenta to the south. That solid magenta, that Class Charlie airspace, is associated with John Wayne. And really specifically what we're talking about are those two shelf areas right there from this, let's see if I can highlight it here. This one right here. And this one right here. This first one starts at 2,000 and goes all the way up to 4,400 feet. Whereas this shelf starts at 35 and goes up to 44. Either way, we need to make sure that we can keep track of this border right there. Right? We need to keep track of that. How can we use pilotage to keep track of these, this Class Charlie shelf? Well, for one thing, we're following this 91 freeway right here. This whole freeway is the 91 freeway. So what we can see based on the chart is that as long as we stay to the north of that 91 freeway, we should be clear of those Charlie shelf areas. So that's what we're going to do. Oh, and there's 4,000. We're actually going to level off here and pick up some speed. 4,000 is fine. So we're just keeping that freeway off to our side. Caution. There.
TFR ahead.
I don't want to be too high, but this is fine. Why is this thing tripping? Dude, why is this thing weird? I'm trying to set the heading bug, man. Look at this. Altitude, hold. That's fine. And heading bug right there. Oh, you know what? My I'm not set. My compass isn't set. My bad. That's funny. It was doing exactly as it's told, actually. There we go. All right. Okay, cool. So we've got the 91 right there, and we're flying along. We've got some dotted blue up ahead of us. All right, and that is Fullerton's airspace. This dotted blue being, let's see here. Let's go 3,000. All right. That dotted blue being the Fullerton's class Delta. And utilizing pilotage, I would say we would use this water treatment plant right here off to our right-hand side to know that it's coming up. Not a lot of great references. There's a plant right here that's on the corner. You guys can see. So, but at the end of the day, we're actually totally good to cross that blue line because we are stopping our descent. Actually, no, we're going to stay at 3,000. that airspace only goes up to, but not including 2,500 feet. So we are well above that airspace right there. We're still in class Echo, even though, you know, we just crossed that blue line. Matter of fact, let's simulate that we got the weather and we call it Fullerton Tower. Fullerton Tower, Cessna 65710 is approximately 5 miles. I'm going to go autopilot off. 5 miles to the east, inbound runway 24 with the weather. Cessna 65710, clear to land runway 24. And this is going to be a touch and go left crosswind departure. Cessna 65710, roger, approved as requested. So, see right there, what I did was I contacted the tower first before entering class Delta. And we are about to enter class Delta, right? Right now, we are in class Delta. Why? Because we just crossed over the top of Fullerton's class Delta. That went up to, but not including 2,500 feet. And that's Fullerton out there in the distance. That airport right there. So we're gonna keep descending. We're gonna do a touch and go, and then we're gonna do a left crosswind out of Fullerton. Now the thing is a left crosswind out of Fullerton, you are right smack in the you got Los Alamitos' Delta right there. Let me actually trim nose down a little bit. Pull this up. If you go right, or I'm sorry, left crosswind out of Fullerton, right? If you go that left crosswind out of Fullerton, you're right. You're confronting
2 mile final runway 24.
Los Alamitos class Delta. You'll see that there's a little border right there. Let me actually fly the airplane. There's a border right there. Right there. Class Delta for Los Alamitos. So what I need to do is make sure that, you know, in real life, that I'm aware of that. Pilotage wise, you know that it's on the other side of this oops. You know that it's on the other side of this freeway. This 5 freeway right here. So pilotage wise, you know that if you cross the freeway, you're definitely, and if you're doing your left crosswind, you're definitely gonna be confronting that class Delta airspace. So what you want to do is, if you know that you're going to be left crosswind out of Fullerton and you got to establish two-way radio communication prior to entering class Delta, which is a communication requirement that we went over, we need to have that communication, that tower frequency ready to go. And then when they give us the frequency, when Fullerton Tower gives us the frequency change, then we know exactly what to do. We're going to switch over to Los Alamitos Tower and ask for a southbound transition through their Delta. Here's the touch and go. Flaps 1, full power. There's Knott's Berry Farm right there. It's one of my favorite rides right there. Is Extreme, or what is it? Extreme? No. Accelerator. There we go. There's the 5 freeway, just staying on top of our pilotage. 400 feet, positive rate of climb, safe speed, flaps up. tripping. There's our crosswind turn. Frequency change approved. 65710. We switch frequencies. Los Alamitos Tower, 65710. We are 800 climbing 3005 southbound transition. Transition approved. 65710. And we established that two-way radio communication prior to entering the Class Delta airspace. And we're just in that southbound turn. We actually want to kind of fly a little bit this way. We want to steer clear, actually no, this way. We want to steer clear of the instrument approach that's coming into there. We want to follow this street right here that's down below us. That's Beach Boulevard. We want to follow that. And I can see the airport off in the distance. Very nice. Let's get that climb pitch attitude going. Climb check, temperature, pressure, vacuum, electrical is good. Heading indicator set to compass. And let's get that climb going. Sounds good. Pilotage. Major thing about pilotage, you know, when we're talking about looking outside and looking at recognizable things on the ground, that also counts as the airport themselves. Like, so there's Los Alamitos right there, the two parallel runways. We look at our chart and we should have on our if we have Los Alamitos to our 2 o'clock, we are right there where you see ourselves on the chart. You see that blue airplane has Los Alamitos, the parallel runways off to the 2 o'clock position. So that's definitely Los Alamitos. And because we are east of Los Alamitos, we should we should have Long Beach actually off to our right wing right now, if that's the case. And we do. We can see that in the distance. Long Beach is that spot over there. So how high up does Los Alamitos' delta go? 2,500 feet right there. So above 2,500 feet, we are outside of the delta. And we are not surprised when they switch us over to the frequency, the next frequency. And there's 2,500 feet right there. We are outside. Cessna 172 or 65710. You are outside of my airspace. No traffic observed. Frequency change approved. Frequency change approved. 65710. Thank you. We switch over to SoCal approach. This frequency right here. 12. Or excuse me. This right here. 127.2 will be above 3,000 feet, so we'll switch over to 127.2. SoCal approach, Cessna 65710. 3,000 climbing 3005 over just east of Los Alamitos, requesting traffic advisories in the Long Beach practice area. They give us a squawk code. We talked about what a transponder is. Right now we're squawking 1200. They give us a transponder code of who knows, 0220. Let's just say. This autopilot is tripping, you guys. Alright, make our right hand turn, clear traffic there. And now what we're doing is we're positioning Los Alamitos off of our right wingtip now. We are not east of Los Alamitos. I mean, we kind of are, but now we're becoming south of it, right? Let's just go to 3005 like we said. Back that power off. Keeping an eye. The thing about pilotage is you always want to be keeping an eye on where you are all the time. So now we are south of Los Alamitos. We have that off of our right wingtip. which means that 2 o'clock should be Long Beach. And there it is right there. There's Long Beach right there, 2 o'clock. So let's continue putting the pieces together. What do we know based on the chart symbology? What's coming up next? Well, according to the chart, you can see us in the bottom right-hand corner there over the waterway. You can see the blue airplane. It's kind of hard to see, but blow that up for you a little bit. You can see the airplane is just about to cross over the border there. We've got Queensgate up ahead of us. You see Queensgate right there in the center. And then to the north of Queensgate, we've got the Queen Mary. Let me see if I can autopilot and altitude select. All right, sweet. Wonderful. This is a great view. So, actually, all right. So we know that out there is Los Alamitos. We got the blue airplane on the chart there, and then we've got Long Beach. It's probably a little bit closer actually to the shore. Okay, so we're coming up to Queensgate. Queensgate is the name of that gate right there. And so what you can see here is Long Beach off in the distance. That whole patch of land right there is Long Beach. The question is are we in there or near their airspace? Well, first of all, we are near it, but it only goes up to 2,600 feet. There's Long Beach right there. So the fact that we're at like 3,500 feet, we're definitely above it, but it's important to identify where the edge still is. So if that's Queensgate, there's the Queen Mary right there. Right there. And the thing about the Queen Mary is you can see on the chart, the Queen Mary marks the edge of Long Beach. That Queen Mary right there, the edge of the delta is right in here. So coming into Long Beach, if we were to come in, that's, you know, that's a really critical spot that we'd want to make sure to have established two-way radio communication prior to entering that airspace that we can readily identify using pilotage and where the Queen Mary actually is. Now here's the thing is we're going to keep flying. So if that's Queensgate right there, and that's the Queen Mary, and that's Long Beach, then that should be Torrance up ahead of us. Off to our left should be Angels Gate, apparently. You can see on the chart. It says Angels Gate right there. That's the break. That's this break over here. That break over there. Let me move this out of the way a little bit. That break over there is Angels Gate. And this one is Queensgate. I'm gonna go inside the cockpit here for a second. All right. Now we've identified Queensgate. We've passed Long Beach. We can see that that's Torrance out there in the distance. That's Torrance. The question is where is Torrance's airspace? Well, apparently, according to the chart, let me go off on a heading here. According to the chart, the edge of Torrance's airspace, that dotted blue line right here, right there, the edge of that dotted blue line is marked by that magenta flag right there. That's off to our right wingtip right now. That's the Vincent Thomas Bridge. That's that flag right there. So what can we do? We can utilize pilotage to see Torrance's airspace. That's the Vincent Thomas Bridge right there. Oops, shit. Sorry, guys. That is the Vincent Thomas Bridge right there. Off to our right wingtip. Utilizing pilotage to know where we are and to be able to identify that airspace. If we are to the, what we can see on the chart is if we are east of that bridge, which we are, then we are outside of that airspace. If we're west of the bridge, we're in it, as long as we are below 2,400 feet. We are above it, we're at 3,500 feet, so it's all good. Point Furman is where we're coming up to right now. You can see there on the chart. Point Furman is that point right there that we're coming up to. And we're just going to go right along the coast here. Matter of fact, we're going to turn around and we're going to follow a freeway. Actually, you know what? No, we're going to go to Long Beach. We're going to go land at Long Beach, runway 26 right, or left. And this is when we would get ourselves all set up. We'd get the weather into Long Beach. Descend here a little bit too. And we get the current weather. We get the altimeter setting and the approach brief. What we're going to do is we're going to land 26 left. Here we go. We're going to land 26 left. And then what we're going to do is we're going to touch and go. We're going to touch and go with a right crosswind departure, and we're going to follow the freeway up to El Monte. We're going to continue our pilotage and utilizing our awareness of where the airspace actually is. But right now we're going to get real deal. Now we're going to get real deal and dodge Class Bravo. We are not going to get a Class Bravo clearance. We're going to descend and maintain 2005 actually for now. Going to maintain that altitude right there. There's Angels Gate. There's the bridge again, Vincent Thomas Bridge. We know that that is a pilotage spot that we can see on the chart. There's our aircraft. You can see here. The aircraft with the Vincent Thomas Bridge off to our left wing. Banny, hello. There's the Vincent Thomas Bridge, marking the edge of that airport's airspace right there. Thank you for the follow, Banny. I appreciate it. So we've called up Long Beach Tower, and we established two-way radio communication. That's a communication requirement for Class Delta airspace. We've also identified where the Class Delta is, because we know that this is Angels Gate out here, and this boat right here is the Queen Mary. And that Queen Mary, based on what the chart says, tells us where the edge of that delta actually is. So we're gonna turn toward the airport. We've established two-way radio communication. We're gonna make left traffic for runway 26 left. And it's gonna be a good time. We're gonna set and maintain 2000. There's the airport right there. Touch and go, runway 26 left, and then we're gonna make a right crosswind departure. There's the Queen Mary again. Yeah, there's the Queen Mary. How are we doing on altitude? Nice, very, very gradual. Queen Mary about to enter the delta. Fliggity with rating with a party of 60. Oh my goodness gracious, raid! What is going on, party people from Fliggity? First of all, can we talk about how awesome that name is? Fliggity 1967. I'm naming my firstborn child Fliggity. Dude, that is so awesome. Welcome, people from Fliggity's channel. It's a pleasure to meet all of you, and thank you for joining us tonight on this stream session. Tonight, my name is Philip, and I'm a certified flight instructor down here in Los Angeles. And tonight we're doing what I like to do is bring ground school and sim sessions to Twitch, and just provide something interesting, some hybrid type stuff to the streaming space. Hybrid on the order of ground school and sim together, and just kind of providing some education to the streaming space. And tonight we are talking airspace. Tonight's all about airspace. I encourage you guys to rewatch the beginning of this this session where we actually talked about we had a PowerPoint on airspace, different types of airspace, and what are the rules and pilot qualifications, and TPA out here is 1100, so I'm just gonna try and talk
TFR ahead.
Talk and flight at the same time. We're landing 26 left, and that's our runway right there, so I'm gonna kind of get some distance here. So yeah, tonight's all about airspace. Tonight's identifying airspace on the chart. What are the lateral and vertical dimensions of these airspaces? How are they depicted? But right now we're in the sim portion. Haha. Suki, let's see, Banny. I'm actually thinking of trying for a PPL. I'm doing a PPL course from Sporties. You live in the LA area. Oh my goodness, I do flight instruction out of Fullerton. What airport are you thinking about operating out of? I'd be happy to help train you, actually, if you'd like. Dude, Jado, Lion King t-shirt, nailed it for me. Boom, thank you for the follow. Lion King for the win. And we're just gonna go power back. Flaps 1. I think you should totally go for it. Fullerton is close to my house. Maxwell, no way! Dude, we got a lot of SoCal people in here. How's it going, Max? Pleasure to meet all of you. Thank you guys so much for the support here tonight. And right now we're gonna land. Let's see here. We're clear final. We're gonna land 26 left, Long Beach, flaps 2 in the white arc there. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go right crosswind out of here to El Monte. We're gonna use pilotage along the set. Oh yeah, so I was getting at what the point is of what we're doing tonight. So since we talked about airspace in the ground portion, we're just doing a tour around my old my stomping grounds here in Los Angeles.
1 mile final runway 26 left.
And just getting acquainted with, you're not going to find many airspace dense, you're not going to find many places around the country that are as dense with airspace as Los Angeles. And so what better, area to explore airspace than in LA, where there's airspace piled on top of each other and all kinds of interesting airspace considerations here. And specifically, we're navigating around LA using pilotage techniques. And now that we know how airspace is charted and what the rules are for certain types of airspace, we can actually go in the airplane and utilize the method of navigation called pilotage to understand where we are with respect to that airspace. And dude, this displaced threshold is way longer than it should be, you guys. In real life, this is not a displaced threshold. This is actually all landing runway. But because I don't want anybody yelling at me, I'm going to land beyond the threshold. But this is all landing portion runway, normally in real life. All right, flaps 1, full power right rudder for the left turning tendencies. And away we go. And the pilotage, what pilotage is looking outside at visual reference points on the ground, prominent visual references on the ground, like freeways or, terrain contours or, rivers or lakes or something. And, yeah, Microsoft Flight Sim ATC is ruthless in the sense that it, doesn't leave you alone, yeah. And we're a right crosswind out of here like this. Actually, we're going to be straight out for now. And we're gonna track that 710. I'm gonna pull that chart up for you guys again. And the way that we're gonna do this, you can see here that blue plane on that chart up in the top. What I have there is I have my tablet out, and I'm just using ForeFlight that I use in my normal flight instruction with my students. I just use ForeFlight. So yeah, Navigraph, I definitely have Navigraph, but it's like, first of all, the VFR is not great. Navigraph's really mostly about IFR stuff. And I do IFR things, by the way. If you're new to the channel, Tuesdays is IFR Tuesdays, where we will fly IFR, we'll do some sort of ground IFR, and then we'll actually go fly it, and I'll fly IFR in like a lot of different things. We'll do G1000, we'll do the jet sometimes, the CJ, the working title CJ4, or we'll do just analog, dual VOR IFR stuff. Lots of fun, but we'll use Navigraph for that a lot of the time. Let me get my myself situated here. Autopilot and then heading. Okay, great. So right turn there, and as I was going to say, if you're new to the channel, we do Wednesdays and Thursdays geared toward the private pilot, which is really where it's at, and airspace being a private pilot kind of, and commercial pilot concern, like when you're first learning like what airspace is and where is it. This is all private pilot level stuff. Yeah, Banny, chime in if anybody else here is thinking about getting a private pilot. This is definitely the place for you, especially. And what we're doing, pilotage is something that you want to become familiar with as a method of navigation, because we need to know where the airspace is. For example, you can see here on the chart coming up, I'm going to pause it actually right here, so we can actually see what's going on. You can see the plane right there. And, Souk, or Souk-KY? Souk-Y? 00 is getting their CFI right now. Fantastic, good to have you. So what we're looking at right now is a right crosswind departure out of Long Beach along that 710 freeway. You can see here that it says 710 right there. It's labeling that whole long freeway right there. So that's what we're going to be following. And where are we going? We're going up north to El Monte. We're doing this. Following that freeway. making a right, and then boom, we're going to El Monte right there. That's the plan. Okay, so the question is, you'll notice that that red line takes us through some airspace. What type of airspace does it take us through? Well, as we talked about, if you were in the ground school in the lecture, it takes us through this solid blue, at least in the proximity of this solid blue areas, this solid blue lines. These solid blue lines the airspace is referred to as Bravo. That type of airspace is reserved for the largest airports in the country, the busiest airports in the country, and in this case it's LAX, obviously. So we need to know where that class Bravo airspace starts, and laterally and vertically. Vertically, we're looking at this first section right here. Let me get rid of this. This first section here, right there, that whole red, it kind of looks like a lobster claw. Right there, all of that starts at 2,500 feet and goes up to 10,000 feet. That whole shape is Class Bravo. And so, yeah, we would need a Class Bravo clearance if we wanted to go through that. If we continue straight, we're good because we're at 1,700 feet. Did you have to alter hardware in real life to operate the aircraft with your physical challenge? No, actually. You know what's really cool about that? What Jado's asking about is I'm an amputee pilot. For those of you that don't know or haven't read the About Me page, one of the things that I bring a unique perspective to flight instruction, to aviation in general, and then to the streaming space is I'm an amputee pilot in real life, and I'm obviously an amputee instructor as well. My whole left arm is gone. And so learning to fly was a really interesting process where I've been violating Class B since launch day. Noted. I'm surprised they didn't let you know that, Mod. But so I'm an amputee pilot, and that left arm is gone as a result of a spinal cord injury that I survived in 2006. And so when I learned to fly, I went through all the things that I had to go through to become a better student, and, you know, graduate college, get a good job so I could afford my training. But then when I started training, I didn't have an altered aircraft. I actually started with a prosthetic arm. And then when I completed my private pilot, and I was working on my instrument rating, I really upped the ante, and I simmed a lot, and I weaned myself off of the prosthetic arm. So now I truly fly myself, as well as flight instruct, like without the prosthetic at all. I don't use the arm. I prefer not to. The only time I used my prosthetic arm again was during my multi. My multi engine was a bit hairy. We definitely needed that. And I thank God for the accident. I thank God for the spinal cord injury, because it made me, you know, like, I have to be very sequence oriented, you know, especially when it comes to flying. Like, what are the sequence of events that need to happen so that I don't get behind the airplane? And I try and, you know, I teach that way. You know, I teach. I'm very, very partial, as you would imagine, to trim techniques and staying ahead of the airplane and staying organized in the cockpit. It's all good, man. It's all good. It's actually one of the greatest things. Like, dude, if you could score yourself a flight instructor with one arm, that's the way to go, man. That person's gonna show you how to be organized and be in control of the airplane like no one else, dude. Trust me. Anyway, so as we continue our pilotage along the chicken, dude. Hey, here we go. Hold up. Wait, oh man, you can't really hear it. I got I'm working on my my sound alerts and my whatchamacallit, my sound alerts and my chat commands, dude. And I snagged a rise chicken, man.
Arise chicken.
Rise chicken.
Arise chicken. Arise chicken.
Chicken arise.
Hey, chicken, arise. Oh, it sounded good to you, Zach? Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. Okay, good. Okay, guys, so let's continue our pilotage along the Bravo here. And right now we're actually underneath the Bravo, and we're good. We're good with that 2,500-foot Bravo ahead of us. You can see there's our airplane. And we're just following that freeway right there. Now the question is, where does that 2,500-foot Bravo start? Well, what we can do is look to our, you'll notice that it's what's called a beam. Oops. It is off to the, you'll notice that, oh man, whoa, this is tripping. You'll notice that that line is perpendicular to that Compton airport right there. Hey, nice to meet you. Gotta go. I'll hit up the Instagram, talk about private license. Max, let's do it, dude. Let's do it. Same thing with you, Benny. And thank you so much. I appreciate that and the kind words. So what we want to do is if we could spot, as we follow this freeway, if we could spot Compton, you know, a beam or abreast that a beam that Compton Courthouse is Class Bravo. See, as we continue up that freeway.
All right.
This thing's tripping, man. Thank you so much for the follow, Duck. You're awesome. So let me clear the red. Ooh. This thing's freaking out. So all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna continue up this freeway right here. Soup from a fellow CFI. Thank you so much for the follow there, man. And I'm humble, dude. I'm you know, I'm a relatively green CFI. I've got 500 hours dual given in airplanes and 900 hours total time. So since I'm relatively low time, you know, I'm always open to you know, suggestions and constructive criticism. So let me know. Also let me know if you want any help going through your CFI. CFI training is some of my favorite training. So if I could spot Compton, then I can spot the Bravo. Here we are. There's the 710. Oops, my bad. There's the 710. All along there. Following the LA River. And there's the Compton, there's Compton Airport. There's Compton Airport right there. We know it's Compton Airport because there's Compton Courthouse right there, actually. So Compton Airport, then a beam Compton Airport is the Bravo. So as long as we are below 2,500 feet, by the time Compton is off to our left wingtip, we're below the Bravo, no problem. Okay? The other thing is we want to keep track of our freeways too. Like this freeway right here is the 91. That freeway right there. That's the 91 right there. So let's just continue our journey along the 710. Trying to learn, Banny, I'm trying to learn a little bit more about aviation before I do my hours. I'm pretty new to everything. Is this VFR? This is absolutely VFR, and that's a fantastic strategy. It's a really smart strategy on your part. Very nice. Oops. This is, what, 3.3? Sometimes this heading indicator is screwy. All right. Watching your stream this much, I'm going to end up being more familiar with LA than my own. Absolutely. Juso, what is going on? Welcome, welcome. Okay, so we are just shy of 3. Okay. So there's the 71 freeway. There's Compton off to our left wingtip. We're not surprised that if we look to the chart, we just crossed over that Bravo right there. We're not surprised at all. We're gonna, in fact, I'm gonna get a little bit closer to that freeway as we make our way up to El Monte. Now, the thing is we could be also at 2,000 feet in here, right? We have to be below 2,500 feet. And 2,000, we could even be 21 or 2,200 feet, right? If we wanted to. The problem with being 21 or 2,200 feet is that the Bravo that's coming up is 2,000 foot Bravo. You could see that, right? So that's why we're down here at 17, because we are going to continue straight. You said, what's the route? Juso, we are up. We are navigating using pilotage along the 710 to El Monte and just identifying airspace here. Notice here, pause. Notice the chart. We're coming right up to that 2,000 foot Bravo right there along the 710 freeway. How do we know that it's coming up though? If you'll notice off to the left, that Bravo right there, it's right in alignment with this freeway jutting off like that. It comes at an angle. You can actually see that right there. See the freeway? See how the freeway kind of bends? It bends this way. It bends, and then it goes back to east-west. So see that line right there? As you extend that line from that corner right there, oops, I'm sorry, you guys. That's the freeway right there, the bendy freeway. There's the 91, or excuse me, the 105. The 105 freeway starts there and it bends, and then it comes to a shoulder right there, and east and west. Right? So if you draw a line from that spot right there all the way east, that's the Bravo right there. And it makes a lot of sense that the Bravo is right in front of us. So as soon as we have that east-west segment of the freeway off to our left wing, we have the Bravo, where we are upon the Bravo, right? How long it took you to study and pass the written test? Ah, man. Yeah, the written, I mean, it took me some time because I really spent the time going through the written exam material. And I was going through Gleim, personally. I really like Gleim. And I really took my time with it because I knew I wanted to be an instructor. And so I really wanted to understand why I got certain questions wrong. It's one thing to memorize what the answers are, but it's another thing to really, like, take notes on what you got wrong and to take stats on the things you got wrong. Make those flashcards that you should do anyways. Don't make them by hand. Make them electronically using like Quizlet or something. Quizlet for the win. Who's going to back me up in the chat with that? And do it right. I really recommend doing it right, because when you get your pilot's license or your certificate, right? When you get your pilot's cert, every 2 years you're going to have to go do a flight review of some kind, and it's nice to pull your flashcards out and just kind of go through those things, you know. But it is Suk is correct. It is easy to study, but I mean, let's see here. 3 weeks is pretty simple. No, absolutely not. 3 weeks to study all that material. That would have to be the only thing that you're doing for those 3 weeks. We're talking about airspace, and you should actually know that, Suk. We're talking about airspace, we're talking about aerodynamics, we're talking about nav systems, cross-country flight planning, we're We're talking about regulations. Dude, regulations is real deal. You know, you need to take your time with that stuff and not be spending only 3 weeks on that. Like, you really need to. And here's the other thing is, I really recommend for the private pilot, do not try and get that written out of the way first before you go see an instructor. It's another thing for your instrument rating or your commercial. If you want to do that with the higher order ratings and certificate, like, that's fine because you already taken yourself through it once. But when you don't know anything, like for the private pilot, you don't realize it, but a lot of these things, like, you know, if you don't study them the right way the first time, it's really, really difficult to unlearn that. Yeah, Juso's also got it right. Don't leave the medical last minute either. So yeah, no, you need more time than 3 weeks. Don't rush it. It's not worth it. The written exam is a hoop to get through, but no, you need time. Do and spend some time with an instructor to go through that material so you know what you're talking about, you know. Do I have to read any books for the written test? I got the Audible for Pilot's Handbook, Aeronautical Knowledge. Oh, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't touch the Pilot Handbook. I wouldn't touch the PHAC for the written. Not at all. Not at all. There's so much excessive information in there. It's a beautiful document, and you absolutely will come back to that. I would just go Jeppesen or go Gleim personally, or go Sporties like you're doing, or you know, King or something like that that's geared toward the written exam, and just work through those multiple choice questions, understand what they're saying, but realize that, you know, your instructor should be walking you through those things in greater detail, why certain things are the same way. And also, it's nice to work with an instructor on, like, just multiple choice test taking skills, because some of those questions are asked all weird and stuff. I don't need to read the FAA regulations books. I mean, no, not for the written exam. Not for the written exam. Like, should you? Like, yes, I guess, like, you know, you should be familiar with those things. But the thing is, especially regulations, you're not going to know what that's saying. You need to. The job of the instructor is to walk you through the regulations and deciphering that cryptic language for you and with you. Honestly, if you just take notes, if you work through a Sporties or a Gleim or a Jeppesen or King or whatever, a program that's geared for the written exam, and you take really, really, really good notes, do not shortcut. If you shortcut, you're fucked. And then you just did that to yourself. So take really good notes. You know, go on YouTube, like go on Instagram, like these CFI gurus, like M0A or Zero Mike Alpha, Rod Machado, oh my God, there's so many out there. Like, you know, you could gather information, you know, that helps fill in some of those gaps. You can absolutely take and pass a written exam and not necessarily have to, like, have dived into those materials. Now, like I say though, I do not recommend taking that written exam before you interact with an instructor. So because of that, you're going to have your instructor is going to refer you to those materials to supplement that material that you're going through for the test prep, just by virtue of you going with an instructor first before you take your written. But is it possible? Like, yeah, I suppose so, yeah, you know. But like for your instrument and for all those other things, like the instrument, the commercial, you absolutely, you know, well, at that point you're going to be well acquainted with the materials anyways, so you can choose to, you know, read those primary materials along with your test prep. But yeah, those test prep books are like serious, dude. They could totally help you out and do it. I see what you mean, but King School makes it very easy to understand to pass that test. I feel like it's the job of the instructor to make you confident in the material and use it. That's true, but the problem is is it Suki? Suk? Not King Schools, if you know what I mean. Yeah, like the problem is though, is like by you only doing it by yourself in King Schools and not with an instructor to help you understand at least base level what's going on, is you are literally just figuring out what the right answers are and you have no understanding of what is even going on, you're just wasting your time. And if you're gonna be at ground zero by the time you pass your written because you did it that way, like, dude, just do it kind of the right way and kind of slow cook that written. What's the rush? You know what I mean? And so I would not advise that. I would not advise taking your written I would not advise going through a program by yourself, doing the written as fast as possible by yourself, super cheap, no instructor, but I passed, but you have no idea what you're talking about. Oh, but that's why I have my instructor to show me what's... Okay, so basically you wasted all that time. You're going to have to relearn everything anyways. Like, you just wasted your time, you know? Like, whereas if you can work with an instructor on learning what's what and going through the written at the same time, like, honestly, your instructor should be... You should be working with an instructor, and then they should be assigning you homework to read for your knowledge test, in addition to other materials that are assigned readings, like the POH of the aircraft or the regulations or whatever. That's just my opinion. How many hours usually takes for someone to get their PPL? 40 is enough? Absolutely not. Nowhere in the country is 40 going to be enough. Average, the national average is like 70 to 80 hours. But you're out here in Los Angeles, guarantee you it's going to be 70 minimum. Now, it depends on how much sim you do and how familiar you actually are with the area and with the aircraft. You know, it's not gonna happen in 40 hours, I promise, no matter what anybody says. Okay, you guys, my bad. So let's go ahead and keep flying. Nope, I can tell you, Banny, not possible. Not possible. I'm sorry to say. 54 for me was doing it almost every day. That's a good reference, actually. I would say 9 to 12,000. Because you're paying for ground, you know, and a good instructor is going to spend time with you on the ground. Many instructors do not, and that should be like a red flag for you. But they really should. Okay, so let's continue along the 710. I'm gonna space myself out a little bit more. As Jason says, airplane is horrible classroom. I don't know of a worse classroom than the airplane. Yeah, Jason Schaffner. Okay, guys. So, we're in this 2,000-foot Bravo, as you can see. Great discussion, by the way. I love how, like, lively the chat is right now. Feel free to get in touch with me, by the way, like, about anything. In fact, you know what? I'm going to break off of this right here. We need to know where is the end of the, if you feel yours is not... Oh, dude, we're getting... Oh, Pink has it nailed right there. Don't be scared to switch instructors if you feel yours is not getting the job done. I went through a few. It's all about that ground. Most instructors hate ground because they don't get the flight time and they're trying to get to the airlines. You need an instructor that appreciates ground. Now, the question is where is this Bravo Dunzo? You see here? See that? We're coming up to the end of the Bravo. Our first instructor got me 4 lessons in 5 months. I switched. Zach. So, we're coming up to the end, but the question is where is the end of this Bravo? We've got some pilotage that can help us out. We're going along this freeway, right? Right here. I also have my CFI, CFII, MAI, and you're giving great advice. Bam! With the acknowledgement and the validation. Thank you, Pink. You're awesome. Where did you get yours, if you don't mind me asking? Oh, got you. Okay, so pilotage-wise, where is the end of this class Bravo airspace? We're following the 710 is right there under our left wheel there. 710, okay. Apparently, the end of this Bravo right here. Oops. The end of that Bravo right there, okay, comes right after this weird little curve right here. See that? Weird little curve. And then apparently after that, the Bravo ends. And we are clear to climb to what altitude? Well, that was 2,500 foot Bravo. See that? 2,500 foot Bravo. So, the question is we just need to stay at this altitude at 1,700 feet until we get past that weird bend. Where's that weird bend? Oops, right there. This right here is that weird bend off to our 10 o'clock. We can see it clear as day. And so right about there, we're clear of the Bravo. All right. So let's just keep that weird bend off to our, keep it in sight. And then what are we gonna do after the bend? How about we go to Garvey? After the bend, after that bend right there, let's beeline it for Garvey. Right there. Why are we going to Garvey? Well, we're going to El Monte, right? Is the ultimate goal to go to El Monte right there. So the end, kind of like the Vincent Thomas Bridge and the Torrance Delta, or the Queen Mary and the Long Beach Delta, Garvey Reservoir is a really nice pilotage spot marker for El Monte's Class Delta airspace. So if we can hang a right, maybe like a 020 or something, 040 to Garvey, we should be able to see Garvey. In fact, I can see it from here. We can get the weather, establish two-way radio communication, and position ourselves on the right downwind for runway 19er for El Monte as we cross that border right there. But the first step is to get past that weird bend. And again, in case you guys didn't see it, that weird bend is right there. Weird bend in the freeway. All right, so let's go ahead and go keep that weird bend off to our wingtip. And after remember, we're cleared to climb after, like, pretty well after the bend. All right, here we go. All right. I will second it by saying that it's absolutely crucial to find a... Oh, Starflies, what up? What's going on? Starflies is another channel you guys should absolutely check out. Very entertaining, very cool CFI as well. And this is when she says, "No, I'm not. I'm just like, I'm like irritable, and I'm like, it's just like, honestly, it's okay. It's not like super cool." It is super cool. Don't listen to her. Whatever you do, don't listen to her. Go over to her channel and go listen to her. I will second it by saying that it's absolutely crucial to find an instructor that works well with your personality type, learning style. Very much in a relationship. If an instructor doesn't mesh with you, find a new one. Absolutely. There's that bend is over, and we are now crossing that Class Bravo airspace. Let's go to Garvey. Garvey should be, don't listen to... That's funny. So, Garvey should be to our 2 o'clock apparently, according to the chart. And there's Garvey right there, actually. That's Garvey. So let's go ahead and make a turn toward Garvey. And I'm gonna put Garvey off to my left wingtip, or not my left wingtip, but off my left side. And then we know that we actually need to climb. We can climb as well. And this is when we get the ATIS. We actually got the ATIS for El Monte quite a while back. And we call up El Monte Tower, Cessna 65710, miles southwest of Garvey, requesting 19er with information Romeo. Alright, make left traffic for runway, enter a right downwind for runway 19er, 65710. There's Garvey. And we know that Garvey is the edge of the delta for El Monte. So that's great. Nice little pilotage spot there. No, in all seriousness, Starflies is, it's an amazing, that's an amazing channel. Really cool things. A very cool delivery of the material. And just really fun to listen to. Very stream of consciousness is one thing I really like. And definitely free flowing thoughts. Dude, I used to have a speech impediment as a kid. That phrase is a bitch. Free flowing thoughts. Wow. And just a great perspective on flying, and very thorough, and really fun to listen to. Okay, guys, so we established two-way radio communication. That was our requirement for Class Delta airspace. We're leaving the Garvey behind us. We should have a freeway coming up here. There's that freeway right there. That's the 10. The 10 freeway goes along the departure end of El Monte according to the chart. And so we're just going to follow that freeway over there, and there's El Monte. Right there. Right there. That's El Monte. So we're going to enter... because we're out of fuel, we're going to enter right downwind. It's a 1,300 foot TPA out there. Right downwind for runway 19er. Then we're going to call it a night. Play some Halo, dude. Video games before bed. Should we do Halo? Or should we do Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time on the N64 emulator? New World. Sook is not a fan of a this or that. It sounds like he picks answer C all the time. Very very hipster, very meta. I heard that game is actually really cool. I have a couple buddies that are playing it, and apparently, like, they lost a war, or like a battle, I guess. That they were like battling for like 45 minutes and then lost. I'm like, dude, that sounds like that sucks, man. What's going on in New World, by the way? Like, why, you know? Can you like elevator pitch it? I'm pretty intrigued by it. Is it at least what type of game? Is it like a role-playing game or something? It looked kind of like oh no, you know what he was saying was it's MMORPG, which I was like, damn, fools are gonna be addicted to that shit.
500.
Dude. All right, we're 500 feet base to final, runway 19er, clear to land, and we are on slope. Honestly, I can't even explain it. Damn, that's intriguing. That's always like one of the best like elevator pitches ever, is like, dude, honestly, I can't even explain it. You just got to try it, dude, like for yourself. It's so like, oh, dude, I can't even, dude. It makes me want to be like, really? No, that's cool, man. That's cool. I never really played World of Warcraft. I played some of it, but yeah, MMORPGs, man. I mean, it seems really cool. I do like RPGs. And you guys, with a glass of fuel left, we made it to the airport on fumes. And with that, I gotta say thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Let's see here to the chat. Fight things, level up, thousands of players. Pff, what more do you need, dude? Enough said. Enough said. I got a half of a beer that I've been nursing. I'm sorry, guys. So, yeah, I did want to say thank you so much for tuning in. Oh, shit. Damn. Thank you so much for tuning in to the stream. And we're going on, what, 3.5 hours? Not bad. Not bad. I did want to sum things up with, you know, airspace is super, super important. It's crucial. And I think even more so, even more important, that random bus, like these tourists, what the hell? Even more so, what's important is just maintaining the positional awareness and where are you, where you are. And the way that we maintain positional awareness, situational awareness, the way that we stay in front of the airplane is constantly, every step of the way, like trying to look at what is on the ground and looking at our chart, whether it's paper or we could have done. What I do is I fly around LA doing exactly what we just did. I fly around with paper and I show students, like, where on paper, like, where are we? You know, where's the airspace that you want to kind of stay out of? What's the airspace coming up? What airspace are you above? You know, and how high up does that airspace go? Where are the boundaries of this Class Bravo airspace so you can kind of duck under it? And all of tonight was like, what are these visual references, you know, to help us do that? Absolutely possible, you know, to do with paper. And it doesn't, what we're also trying to do is stay outside. We're trying to keep our view outside. We're trying to minimize that head down time. You know, it's the head down time that's really going to kill people, because, or at least get you in trouble, because with your head down, you know, you're looking at your GPS, you're trying to fiddle with it and trying to, you know, it's just not the way to do it. You know, look outside, look at where you're at, and take it one step at a time, you know, and then obviously, you know, you're going to work with your instructor on, like, lost procedures if you are lost. But, you know, the best way to not get lost is to not let yourself get lost, you know, and just stay on top of the next thing. We went freeways by your freeway, and Suki's got it right, you know. Don't cheat with your iPad. In fact, I make students use paper. Like, obviously I use an iPad. I'm an instructor. Like, we don't have time to be, like, you know, not really, but I'm familiar enough with the area to know, like, where everything's at. But for a student, like, I make them use paper, like, initially, and I point out, like, where things are on the paper, and that way they're not, because they're really comfortable going from paper to EFB, but to go from EFB to paper is, like, impossible, at least from a stress management standpoint. And you're just gonna be behind. You're not doing your checklists, you're not listening on the radio, you're not responding on the radio, you're not setting and tuning and identifying your nav aids, you know, and it's just not happening, you know. So I do try and make them use paper initially, and then graduate. When we get into cross country stuff, yeah, then fine, you know, then let's do it. But even then, I help them pre-fold their charts, single pilot resource management wise, we pre-fold those paper charts, and we do break those out in flight, and I show them like where they're at and whatever. So anyway, yeah, man, so tonight's really good lesson on airspace. Thank you guys for sticking around. For those of you who came late in the raid, like, I encourage you to watch the video after the fact, maybe take some good notes on some airspace, and pull out a chart that's like near you on SkyVector or something, and try and make some sense out of the airspace that's around you. For those of you that I've just met in Southern California that are around in my area that are looking for some flight instruction, get in touch with me. Let's do it. You know, even those of you that are not looking for flight instruction, if you're or that are in my area, if you're looking for tutoring or some guidance on where to start or what to do, like, get in touch with me, and let's figure it out. Let's get you on a good path. I'm very much you know, approach flight instruction and life in general from like a motivational standpoint, and I have empathy for students not knowing what to do, or feeling like they don't belong, or feeling like they're not smart enough, or whatever. I was a horrible student my whole life until college. You know, I barely graduated high school. I was in special needs classes in high school, dude, and then graduated college, and you know, like, utilized the gift of the spinal cord injury and the physical limitations to force me to like develop my mind better, to become a better student. And that's why I'm a teacher. Like, that's why I do flight instruction. Is I love flying. I've always wanted to be a pilot, but I now have empathy for what students need, and you know, when they're up against it. Sometimes, a lot of the time, you're up against just yourself, you know. So I definitely get that, and would love to help you out, whether it's through flight instruction or not. So give the channel a follow. All this material that I bring to you comes at a great cost, money and time that I spend to deliver this information. So if you could just drop me a sub and help keep the channel going, really appreciate it. And I'll see you guys you know, next stream tomorrow, actually. Oh no, not stream. Normally I have a stream on Thursday, but my flighting skills Thursdays will actually be on Friday this week, and it's going to be LA Basin tour. So we're going to kind of develop we're gonna develop more and build off of what we were talking about tonight, pilotage wise, and as we fly around the LA Basin. But we do some dope shit. We're gonna do some downtown LA. We're gonna do Staples Center. We're gonna do Observatory, the famous Griffith Observatory. We'll do the Hollywood sign, Santa Monica, Malibu, and then we'll go down the coast over LAX through the LAX special flight rules, and whatever, dude. Like, whatever. We'll do a beach cruise. It'll be really nice, and we'll be putting those pieces, those pilotage pieces together, and just enjoying Los Angeles, you know. So I'm really looking forward to showing you guys around, like, my neck of the woods. So thank you for the subs, and thank you for the follows, and I will see you guys around. I'm actually going to grab another beer. I'm going to stop the stream here, and I think we're going to Halo for a little bit. So I'll see you guys in the next stream.